Chapter 391. April 20th, 7:56 in the evening. Peng Liyun defeated in Chaoyang for the third time in 3 years, showing that he was only half a step away from the inhuman stage. In the following battle, he defeated Piao Yuan with his exhausted body and completed the feat of 1 versus 2. After Su Wanyin defeated Xing Jingjing with his corvine mouth, Huahai bade farewell to the national competition with the worst result in the past 5 years and bid farewell to the former champion and Chaoyang. The sleeping tiger left quietly, leaving only a lonely figure in the hearts of the audience of this year's martial arts tournament, the lonely figure after losing to Lu Cheng. Passion is no match for strength and passion is no match for God. April 21st, 9:07 in the morning. A portal released an exclusive interview with Huahai University Martial Arts Club, in which Piao Yuan and En Chaoyang described in detail the characteristics of Lu Cheng's newly mastered simplified physical invulnerability, suspecting that it was the internal explosion punch of the fire sect. Hearing this, the audience was in an uproar. They didn't expect Lu Cheng, a direct disciple of the Ice God sect, to have inherited the fire sect. Many people began to think that he had a close relationship with the Longhu Club. In the fan forum, Brahmin was jubilant, posting photos to congratulate Lu Cheng. Her cute and tender appearance attracted many strange uncles and aunts. In the forum of the Longhu Club, moderators such as Pig Riding Knight, active IDs such as Above the Sky, and a plumber eating mushrooms, were seriously discussing the possibility of Lu Cheng joining the club in the future, and even thinking of a better nickname for him. This made Lu Cheng, who was silently eavesdropping on their conversation, feel a little ashamed. He couldn't think of a satisfactory nickname to lead the trend after a long time. April 21st, 3:30 in the afternoon. Because of the widely known relationship between Lu Cheng and Dragon King, the odds set by the gambling companies changed again. Capital's odds went up, while Songqing University's went down. The difference was almost negligible. In the various gambling shops, many hobbyists, who wandered around all year round, finished studying the bets and made their choices. In addition, the audience who usually didn't set foot in this area entered these shops or placed bets online with the mentality of gambling for fun. April 22nd, 7:11 in the evening. At the entrance of the martial arts arena of the capital, the audience from all directions had formed a long line. Ding Yisin, who was holding popcorn and eating roasted sausages, looked around and said excitedly to Chiu Hailin, Duyin and the others, "There are really so many people." After the semi-finals were confirmed, the Capital Academy Martial Arts Club took advantage of the fact that they were fighting in their home territory and obtained the right to sell some tickets so that their supporters could come to the venue to cheer. Chiu Hailin, on the other hand, used her connections in the student union to successfully buy tickets for all 4 of her roommates. "I'm thinking about a problem." Duyin was influenced by the singing and dancing of the audience around her. "What's the problem?" Chiu Hailin exposed her smooth forehead and asked blankly. "Yisin is such a love-struck fool. Will she support our school's martial arts club or Lu Cheng?" Duyin looked at Ding Yisin, whose cheeks were bulging as she ate. Ding Yisin was stunned when she heard that. She swallowed half a mouthful of roasted intestines. "I'll cheer for the martial arts club with you guys, but I'll still hope for Lu Cheng to win. I'll devote myself to the school and my heart to him." Why does that sound so familiar? Chiu Hailin was both amused and confused. Just then they saw a group of boys in checkered shirts passing by with banners in their hands and heard them shouting, "Renli! Renli!" In such a lively atmosphere, similar shouts could be heard constantly, half joking and half venting. April 22nd, 7:23 p.m. With the lighting and camera in place, the live broadcast began. Welcome to the 2 semi-finals of this year's University Martial Arts competition. First, Songqing University versus Capital, and then Shanbei versus Guangnan. The host, Lu Chong, said with a professional smile, "Tonight I'll be commentating with our old friend Qin Sanxing." "Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lu Chong." Qin Sanxing put his palms together and shook his head with a smile. After a short exchange of greetings, the live broadcast switched back to the scene, showing the audience in front of the screen the gradually filled stands. It was obvious that Capital's supporters were quite organized. They occupied one side of the stands, holding banners, drawing sketches, blowing horns or singing cheerfully, which ignited the enthusiasm of the onlookers. As for the other audience, some were wearing Songqing University's white martial arts suit with black edges, and some were holding cartoon figures of Lu Cheng, Lin Ke and Yan Zhika. They were scattered, each forming their own formation. April 22nd, 7:29 p.m. Yan Shaoling climbed out of bed and sat in front of the desk. She set up the computer and took out the snacks. While refreshing the forum and chatting with Brahmin and unparalleled Dragon King to liven up the atmosphere, she turned off the bullet screen and listened to Qin Sanxing and Lu Chang's commentary. Behind her, Mu Jinyan held a string of Bodhi beads in her left hand and prayed before the competition. April 22, 7:35 p.m. In the locker room of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Geezer Sher clapped his hands to wake up Lu Cheng and the others who were resting with their eyes closed. He coughed and said, "Let's not think about Capital's formation today. Let's do our best and challenge them in our strongest form." Lu Cheng Lin Ke Yenjika from strong to weak form a long spear-charging momentum. Fight one by one until you run out of ammunition and food. If Capital doesn't have Renli first, then you should try to beat Chindigua and the others quickly and seize the opportunity. If you meet Renli in the beginning, I don't need to say anything more, right? Don't think about saving anything for the finals. Don't worry about fatigue and injuries. Hey, if you lose, it's useless to think about these things. Do you understand? Lu Cheng Lin Ke Yenjika, and the others took a deep breath and answered in unison, yes. April 22, 7:36 p.m. In the locker room of Capital College Martial Arts Club, Xinyu, who was also a part-time coach, looked around with a slightly listless left eye and said with a faint smile, "Do you remember what happened after the finals last year?" In the finals last year, Capital College lost to Shanbei by a small margin and failed to win the championship. Hearing Xinyu's words, whether it was Qin Digua, Jiang Jingfeng or Jiang Kongchan, who were the main players in last year's final, or Jiang Kongchan, who was a newcomer at that time, they all recalled the sad and sentimental scenes and remembered that they had held hands and shouted, "Next year's champion." Remember. How can we not remember? We are the team that is destined to win the championship this year. Qin Digua clenched his fists and shook them. After the final match, I will go to Peng Liyun and the others as the winner and pretentiously say my favorite quote from the novel, "Pain is my friend. Please allow me to introduce it to you." Xinyu smiled and nodded. She stood up and said, "It's good that you still remember. Our goal is to win the championship, and from now on, we will meet the two strongest opponents. There is no room for any slack or contempt. We have walked for a year and finally come here again. Now we can't walk like before. We have to sprint, sprint, sprint." Qin Digua and Jiang Kongchan's fighting spirit was completely ignited. Renli also put away her usual absent-mindedness and joined them, shouting out all the pent-up emotions in her heart. April 22, 7:40 p.m. In the locker rooms of both sides, Lu Cheng and the others once again formed a circle, half bent down, one hand on the shoulder of the person next to them, and the other hand in the center, overlapping each other. Renli, Qin Digua and Jiang Kongchan stretched out their fists and touched each other in the air. Victory! Lu Cheng, Kai Zongming and the others shouted crazily. Sprint! The main force and substitutes of Capital College Martial Arts Club shouted together and bumped fists. Clang! The doors of both locker rooms were opened at the same time, and the outside light shone in with the rolling sound waves. April 22, 7:41 p.m. When the referee stepped into the ring, the announcer of the martial arts arena said in a hoarse voice, "The roster of Capital College Martial Arts Club is arranged in order. Renli, Qin Digua, Jiang Kongchan." In the burst of cheers he continued to announce, "The roster of Songqing University Martial Arts Club is Lu Cheng Lin Ke Yenjika." Before his voice died away, the whole arena boiled up, excluding all the noise. It was definitely over 125 decibels. There was no need for anyone to say anything. Everyone was very clear about what the first battle was. April 22, 7:45 p.m. The semi-final match between Capital College Martial Arts Club and Songqing University Martial Arts Club officially began. The first round, Renli vs. Lu Cheng. Chapter 392. In the martial arts arena of the capital city, the lights were brilliant and the atmosphere was bursting. Lu Cheng had such a feeling that he couldn't help but tremble slightly. Seeing the referee waving to both sides and the electronic clock saying 43 minutes, he slowly stood up, took off his thin coat, and looked at his girlfriend beside him, wondering how she would cheer for him this time. At this moment, Yenjika also stood up, clenched her white fist, shook it a few times and shouted softly, "Lu Cheng! Lu Cheng! Come on, Lu Cheng!" The familiar voice, familiar tone, and familiar words made Lu Cheng feel like he was in a trance. He felt like he was going back in time, and he especially cherished the beauty and hardships of this journey. This was the first cheer he had received in the first few challenge tournaments in his life. At that time, he didn't expect to participate in the semi-finals of the National Martial Arts Competition in the second semester of his sophomore year and compete with Renli, the heavenly son of the age, on such a high-level stage. Since joining the martial arts club, it had taken him 1 year and 7 months. Step by step he had finally reached this point. He had reached the threshold of the finals. Whether to advance or retreat, it all depended on this one move. "I'll do my best." Lu Cheng replied with the same reply from that time, but with an additional action. He reached out his fist and bumped with the girl. In his spare time he would occasionally look through the past chat records. At a certain stage he would export and back up them. Xianxia seemed to remember the scene in the conversation at that time. She looked at him and smiled. Everything was understood without words. Beside them Li Mao, Sun Jian, Kai Zhongming, and the others were puzzled by this back-to-the-basics encouragement and reply. They felt that it was not in line with the style of this couple who flaunted their affection every day. Shouldn't they be more and more intimate with each other every time? "When we fought Huahai, although we didn't look back, we could guess that you were doing something inappropriate behind the scenes. Why was it so simple and so innocent this time?" Both Lu Cheng and Xianxia sensed their confusion. They smiled at each other again, feeling the sweetness of sharing an exclusive secret with each other. Without saying anything more, Lu Cheng reached out his hand and gave Lin Kai Zhongming and the others a pat on the shoulder. Amidst the cheers of "good luck," he turned around and walked towards the stone steps of the arena while the big screen was rolling. With every step he took, he became firmer because of the memories from before. The more he walked, the faster he walked, the steadier he became. His willpower slowly rose and his aura gradually rose. When he stepped onto the arena and saw Rin Li, whose straight hair was coiled up elegantly, he was already like a snowy peak, towering into the clouds. In the biting cold north wind, he was steady and cold, steep and sacred, making people worship him. Rin Li, on the other hand, was like a rootless and formless wind. Sometimes she would sneak into the night and hide in silence. Sometimes she would be fierce like a knife. Sometimes she would surge and sweep, turning into the apocalypse. The most amazing thing about her momentum was that her willpower was hidden in the wind, drifting and dispersing at will. This made it impossible for Lu Cheng to fight her head-on, so he could only defend passively. Of course, the highland and snowy mountains were not something that could be shaken by a hurricane. The martial arts of the Wind sect were indeed mysterious. Lu Cheng praised in his mind. He and Ren Li stood on opposite sides of the referee, about 8 to 10 meters apart. In the live broadcast room, Qin Sanxing couldn't help but clear his throat and say to the audience watching the live broadcast, "The battle of the heavenly sons of the era is about to begin." In Lu Cheng's and Ren Li's respective fan forums, the IDs that were chatting earlier all stopped posting and focused their attention on the screen. The men and women in the stadium also held their breaths, watching the digital clock move to 45 minutes and the referee raise his right hand. Talk time starts now. As a high-ranked Dan stage referee, his voice overpowered the audience. As a quasi-senior in the martial arts circle, he clearly knew how much attention this competition had attracted. Not only the fans, the elders and disciples of the Ice God sect and the Kong Tong school would be watching, but even the Dragon King and Dong Baxian were said to have set aside some time to watch the battle. In the ticking sound of the clock, Renly suddenly opened her big eyes and asked in confusion and curiosity, "Is your new simplified physical invulnerability really the internal explosion of the fire sect?" As a direct disciple of a big sect and the last disciple of the blazing sun sword Qi Ling, she naturally knew that Geezer Shur had a close relationship with the military, and the relationship between the military and the Longhu Club was known to all physical invulnerability experts. Since this had been exposed, Lu Cheng had nothing to hide. He answered frankly, "Yes." Why is Renly asking this? Is she using this to start a conversation and attack his mind? But I heard that she's not good at this. Chindigua is more likely to do this. Not everyone could be called talker. Renly sighed with satisfaction and asked again, "Then do you practice Emperor Yen Force, or Fire Force?" These were the two core forces of the Fire sect, known as two of the top 3 offensive forces, among the physical invulnerability experts. Lu Cheng blushed. He thought about it and decided not to lie or bluff. He answered honestly, "Zhu Rong Force." If Renly didn't believe him and let her imagination run wild, then it was her own problem. What does she want to do during the talk time? Should I seize this opportunity to influence my opponent's mood like talker? Oh. Renly seemed to have solved a problem that had been lingering in her heart for a long time. A faint joy appeared between her eyebrows. She thought for a while and said, "You answered 2 questions. Well, then I'll tell you 2 things. Not only have I mastered the simplified physical invulnerability of the Wind sect, but I've also mastered the simplified physical invulnerability of the Plague sect. Also, my force is the post-Wind force." Lu Cheng was a little dumbfounded when he heard Renly reveal her secret. Hey, we're having a match in the arena, not a game of truth or dare. What exactly do you think a sacred period like conversation time is? Source: Talker's quotes. After Renly finished speaking, she closed her mouth tightly. The light in her eyes gradually gathered, as if condensing into a ray of light, which complemented the fresh martial arts suit on her body, which had a light green base and light white embellishment. At this moment, Lu Cheng, who had recovered from his stupor, started to wonder if Renly was telling the truth or not and what her real intention was. Is she really returning the favor by revealing her secret on her own accord, or is she deliberately misleading me so that I can divert more energy to guard against the elusive simplified physical invulnerability of the plague sect? Forget it. I won't think too much about it. Anyway, even if Renly didn't tell me, I still have to guard against such things. I don't want to be fooled by the unique skills of the plague sect for no reason. Lu Cheng gradually calmed down from his train of thoughts. He calmed himself down and pushed his condition up again. While they were silent, the referee glanced at the electronic clock, raised his right hand, swung it down violently and shouted, "Begin!" Whoosh! Renly was the first to move. She took a step to the left and then twisted to the right. Her footwork, fascia, muscles, and strength were all coordinated. Suddenly, a small whirlwind was stirred up. The whirling tornado was visible to the naked eye. It rushed straight towards Lu Cheng with a soul-shaking howl, rolling up a lot of dust on the ground. As for Renly, it was as if she had disappeared into thin air. Buddha's voice accompanying. Stepping on the dipper. These two words flashed across Lu Cheng's mind as he was making hand seals to use the army formula. He realized that Renly had reached an incredible level in the wind step, which was the level of quasi-inhuman. This was similar to the Buddha's voice accompanying and stepping on the dipper. However, the great thunderous cloud, great lion's roar, and great wisdom sound, which could only be mastered by Qiulin before she reached physical invulnerability, were merely lotus steps accompanied by cloud and thunder. Moreover, the cloud and thunder sound didn't have the effect of enlightening people. Renly was obviously not at the beginner level in this aspect. She could be said to have reached the next level. If Qiulin was used as a comparison, her lotus steps accompanied by cloud and thunder was close to the highest level, surrounded by strong winds as if they were protecting her. The sound of the wind was so loud that even the deaf could hear it. This was not only a footwork but also a sound skill. Lu Cheng heard a hair-raising howl in his ears, as if the devil was about to come. In front of him was the whirling tornado. He quickly changed his hand seals and outlined a new ancient word in his mind. He said in a low voice, "Forwarding." The forwarding formula suppressed all devils. Chapter 393. The word forwarding reverberated in a low voice. Lu Cheng's fear and trepidation immediately calmed down. There was no longer the feeling of extraterrestrial demon fantasy in his mind. Only the small visible tornado in front of him was real. With the protection of Hurricane Circle, Renly didn't have to worry about being hit directly by burning of ice and fire, or the influence of army formula. It seemed that Lu Cheng had no other choice but to dodge and wait for the right time. However, the battle of momentum was still going on. If he was forced to retreat at the beginning of the battle, he would inevitably fall into a disadvantage mentally, which would have a certain adverse effect on the following battles. When it came to the moment when victory was decided by a hair's breadth, this might be the key factor. A thought flashed through Lu Cheng's mind. Instead of retreating, he took half a step forward, swung his right arm, and threw a punch at the roaring mini-tornado. Boom! The fist hit the void, the airflow expanded, and the flames rose and rolled out, colliding with the tornado. The most basic application of the power of blaze, bursting punch. Whoosh! The sound of the wind suddenly grew louder. The flames and the whirlwind collapsed and scattered in all directions. At this moment, a figure leaped out from the disintegrated wind vortex. He made a small arc and leaned forward to attack Lu Cheng from the side. Lu Cheng had anticipated this. He tightened his thighs and kicked out with his left foot, making a crisp sound out of nowhere. Renly sensed it before she got close. She bent down again and opened her right fist, turning it into a palm knife. She fiercely chopped at the bone above Lu Cheng's ankle, blocking and attacking at the same time. Bam! Lu Cheng felt a pain in his calf, as if he had suffered a little hard injury. He couldn't help but throw it back and retract it. Renly's palm knife bounced up and crossed with her left palm, leaving only a thin gap as thick as an A4 paper in the middle. Bam! She twisted her waist and bones and her strength surged. Then she crossed her palms, stirring up a wind blade as thin as a cicada's wing and flying out. With a whoosh, Lu Cheng's absolute reaction made his scalp numb. He lowered his head without thinking. Whoosh. The sharp wind blew and a tuft of his short hair fell down. The cut was neat and smooth. The 18th move of Wind Sect, Cold Wind. As soon as he lowered his head, Lu Cheng moved. He swung his left hand forward, shook his wrist and hooked it, sending out a ray of white light that moved close to the ground. He was using offense as defense, not giving Renly any chance to take advantage of his opening to attack. He also took advantage of the situation to turn his body sideways, following closely behind with ice flame. One move after another, like a never-ending brutal blizzard. The distance between them was so close that their fists and feet could meet. After Renly threw out the cold wind, she was about to pounce forward when she was attacked by the ice burning. Seeing that she couldn't avoid it, she lifted her thigh and turned her ankle. In an instant, she exerted her strength and tightened her instep, kicking out a strong wind. Boom! The icy flames in the wind and the cold light shot up to the sky, separating Lu Cheng and Renly. Bam! Lu Cheng smashed through the white flames and rammed into his opponent. And Lu. Calm? Of. Her left foot landed on the ground. She withdrew and released her chi and blood. Then she stepped on the ground and broke the bricks. She pounced and leaned to one side. Lu Cheng didn't have time to make any other changes. He followed up with force concentration. He stretched his body and expanded his muscles. He was going hard against hard. Bam! The wind whimpered. Their bodies swung back at the same time. Then they bounced their spines and turned back to punch. Their coordination was so good that it seemed they had practiced it thousands of times. Lu Cheng believed that Renly must have mastered a similar kung fu to sense the enemy's movement. It was just not as mysterious as his own ice mirror. Bam! Their fists shot out from the sides of their waists and collided with each other. One side was filled with a scorching aura, while the other side was filled with a swelling pain that tore through their veins and skin. Zhu Rong force versus post-wind force. Whoosh! The gale from the ninth heaven consumed itself and blew out the fire flow. At this point the gale didn't calm down. It was still raging. This was the biggest feature of the afterwind force. It could last for a long time, longer than any other force. It wasn't that Lu Cheng didn't know about this. As soon as the Zhurong force was extinguished, the cold wave in his body, driven by the balance of ice and fire, surged and froze the invading gale completely. Lu Cheng felt a tearing pain in his muscles and tendons, while Renly felt a burning sensation in her blood vessels and meridians. They both slowed down for a while. Lu Cheng, with the help of his supernatural ability, caused more damage. He recovered first. He bent his right leg and hit the enemy's lower abdomen with his knee at such a close distance. Renly clenched her teeth. She tilted her body and also bent her knee to hit back. Bam! Lu Cheng and Renly showed the same painful expression at the same time. The joints were the weakest part of the human body, and the knee was no exception. Therefore, neither of them dared to restrain their strength. Otherwise, they would definitely suffer a comminuted fracture. Enduring the pain, Lu Cheng used his knee as a fulcrum and suddenly popped out his calf to kick the enemy. Renly didn't panic. She tilted her waist and moved out of the way, narrowly avoiding the attack. There was no room for breathing. They both took a step back and tried to restrain their strength and spirit. Boom! With her Dan force gushing out, Renly twisted her waist and back and whipped out her left leg with a snap. It was so fast that it almost left a residual shadow in the wind. Lu Cheng countered with a tit-for-tat. He expanded his muscles and responded with a whip kick, using the end of the sheath to exert force. Bam! In the muffled sound, their feet seemed to be frozen in the air for a short time. Around them, white waves of air rolled and disappeared in a flash. Bam! 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 Renly quickly retracted her leg, turned around and kicked again. She kicked 7 times in a row, creating a residual shadow of her leg in the posture of continuous explosion. Her whole body seemed to be in the air. The 27th move of the Wind Sect, Tornado. Bam! 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 Lu Cheng used the momentum of the mega avalanche to drive the consecutive explosions. Although he couldn't borrow too much power each time, he was able to keep up with Renly's tornado with each explosion faster than the previous one. His defense was impregnable. They didn't move an inch. The place where they fought fiercely was like being hit by a cannonball. Shallow pits, cracks, strong winds and broken stones appeared. Seeing that the tornado had no end and was getting faster and faster, Lu Cheng didn't dare to block it with 24 blizzard strikes. After 8 consecutive explosions, he suddenly visualized the image of thundercloud shaking. He tightened the muscles and fascias of his instep, calf and thigh and pulled out a Thunder Zen. In the past few months his attainments in Thunder Roar Zen were much better than before. Boom. Their legs crossed and collided in the air. The violent shock surged up along Renli's feet, shaking her chi, blood and muscles. While trembling she tried to use force concentration, but failed to do 9 consecutive explosions. Lu Qing, who had no strength to borrow from the tornado, couldn't help but stagger backward and retreat under the pressure of the tornado. As soon as the arch of his foot fell, Lu Qing suddenly raised his hands and made a gesture. He solemnly shouted in a low voice, "Army." After a long fight he finally found a chance to use the army formula. The sound of the wind intensified as a cruel aura permeated the air. Renli felt like she was on a battlefield, facing hundreds of horsemen. They were all wearing iron helmets and chainmail, riding on majestic horses. After that, they all put down their masks at the same time, raised their spears and lowered their bodies. Then they clamped their legs and charged forward. Pointing the spears, they were invincible. Thump, thump, thump. The earth was shaking and the chill penetrated into the soul. Those who had not been on the battlefield for a long time would inevitably be scared out of their wits, and Renli was no exception. However, her willpower and spirit were like a shapeless mass of wind. After being oppressed and stimulated, they first scattered and then gathered together again. The light in her eyes quickly recovered. However, Lu Qing didn't expect that his army formula, which was not fully mastered yet, could affect Renli, a direct disciple of a big sect. He just wanted to seize the opportunity. As his voice echoed, he exerted force on his left foot and jumped forward. In his mind he visualized a heavy and hot red sun. Learning from his last fight with Xianxia, he first used the simplified physical invulnerability move of the fire sect, internal explosion. As soon as the red sun appeared, the heat flow in Lu Qing's body seemed to be affected by gravity. It collapsed instantly and condensed into a ball. The visualized image in his mind changed. Zhurong, who had the head of a beast and the body of a human, stepped on a red dragon. The ball of fire that was about to explode calmed down and could be controlled. Lu Qing took a step forward, swung his arm and punched his opponent with his right fist. Renli had already recovered after his counterattack. Seeing that she couldn't dodge his attack, she calmed down and visualized a green hurricane that connected the 9 heavens and the earth. Boulders, trees and seawater were all sucked into it and rolled up to the heavens. Her muscles expanded and contracted, her internal organs squirmed, and waves were generated. The visualized image changed. A female god made of various kinds of wind appeared and suppressed everything that was out of control. Facing Lu Qing's fist, Renli slightly turned her body. Her shoulders exploded and her arms swelled. Her left fist didn't give in to Lu Qing's attack. The 10th move of the Wind Sect, the simplified physical invulnerability move, 9 Heavens Breath. Boom. The fist collided with the fist. A gust of wind gushed out, blowing away most of the fireballs. However, the remaining fireballs still surged into Renli's body, exploding violently. Waves of fire surged out, shaking her internal organs and shaking her chi and blood. Just as the taste of rust filled Renli's throat, Lu Qing felt that her punch didn't seem to come from the front, but from the bottom of his feet. The wind force whistled upwards, trying to tear apart his muscles and fascia, and at the same time to fly to the 9th heaven. Renli clenched her teeth, straightened her back and swelled her arms. She suddenly pulled and lifted Lu Qing up to the heavens as if he was weightless. This was the special feature of the 9 Heavens Breath. It could send people up to the heavens. But once the feet left the ground and without the supernatural ability to fly, the martial artist was often in danger. A foreign martial artist once experienced it and gave it a nickname from a comic book, Rising Dragon Lord. After sending Lu Qing flying with one move, Renli quickly did a force concentration to neutralize most of the effects of the internal explosion. Then, facing the enemy who was about to fall, she used the wind steps, turned her body and turned into a whirlwind, whistling as she soared up. Under the protection of the strong wind, she clenched her fists like a drill. Combo again. When Renli was still making a force concentration, Lu Qing had already adjusted his center of gravity. Seeing her consecutive killer moves, he didn't dare to be careless. He quickly condensed the heat flow, pressed down and hooked his left palm, and hit out a violent red fireball. Flame burning. Boom. The fireball hit Renli, but it was dispersed by the whirlwind and fell down one by one. Renli jumped out from the side of the whirlwind and rose up with Lu Qing at the same speed. Regarding this, Lu Qing secretly thanked his lucky stars. If he hadn't held back just now and directly compressed all of his power of flames and shot it out in an attempt to blast his opponent away, he would have missed and wasted his power. He would have been caught in a difficult situation. Bam! He hooked and shook his right wrist and threw out a crystal cold light at Renli's face. At the same time, he tightened his left palm and attacked the opponent's lower abdomen. During this process, Lu Qing was falling and Renli's upward momentum had just stopped. Renli's right fist was in front of her neck. Seeing the ice burning coming, she calmly opened her fist and threw it into the air. Bam! With a crisp sound, a strong wind blew and detonated the cold light in advance. As for Lu Qing's left hook, she just stretched her palm and caught it steadily. Then Renli took a breath and her body expanded. Her falling momentum suddenly slowed down, as if there was a parachute on her back or a wind supporting her. One was falling fast, the other was falling slowly. Lu Qing and Renli's positions quickly changed. Bam! Renli spat out the turbid air and regained her falling speed. She kicked out her left foot fiercely, aiming at Lu Qing's head with an overbearing momentum. Lu Qing raised his right arm and took the initiative to block the attack while maintaining the state of heart-like ice mirror. Bam! Renli took advantage of the falling momentum and kicked Lu Qing's arm away. Then she took advantage of the rebounding momentum and pulled out her right leg. She attacked continuously without any gaps. If one kick was not enough, then another. Lu Qing raised his left arm again and barely blocked the kick. Renli wanted to take advantage of the fact that his stance was completely broken to kick again, but she kicked empty air. After being kicked twice in a row, Lu Qing's falling speed increased. He broke away from contact and hit the ground. Thump. As soon as he landed on the ground, Lu Qing took a step back to neutralize the momentum of his fall. Just as he steadied himself, Renli stepped onto the arena again. She took a step to the left and then spun to the right. Using the wind steps, she created a small tornado and blew out a whooshing sound that went straight into the hearts of people. In the sound that shook the spirit, Lu Qing's ice mirror collapsed and his head was dizzy. Then he held on with a steady and tenacious will. He visualized the ancient word, formed a seal and shouted in a low voice, "Forward." His mind was clear again. With the sound of the wind, Renli shot out from the tornado and arrived in front of him. She was so fast that the audience almost couldn't see her figure. The 20-second move of the wind sect, whoosh. In the process of quickly closing the distance, Renli visualized the image of a human body. There were countless strange black gash drilling in and out of the human body. Her footsteps paused and the scene in her mind changed. A god with a face as blue as indigo, hair as red as cinnabar, 3 heads, 6 arms and deep vertical eyes descended from the sky. Each of his hands held a seal, a bell, a banner and other items. Bam! The moment the god in her mind shook the flag and the bell rang, Renli shook her right arm and punched down diagonally. The simplified physical invulnerability move of the plague sect, sickness. With the help of the forwarding formula, Lu Qing wasn't affected by the sound skill of wind step for long. When Renli approached him, he was already fully awake. Seeing that he might be hit even if he dodged, he decided to visualize the giant red sun and fire god Zhurong again. He answered Renli's attack with internal explosion. Even if you're close to the inhuman stage and have the simplified physical invulnerability move to neutralize the power of internal explosion, 3 moves won't hurt you badly. But it will cause you serious internal injuries and weaken your strength rapidly. This is the second time. Bam! Lu Qing suddenly felt empty and weak. He felt stuffy in his chest and short of breath. His limbs were weak as if he was suffering from a serious illness. Renli took a step back. Streaks of blood appeared in her sparkling eyes. Her internal organs were tumbling and her head was swelling. She felt like vomiting. She couldn't give him a chance to neutralize the sickness with force concentration. Renli clenched her teeth and endured the discomfort in her body. She rushed forward and swung her arm at the enemy's head. Lu Qing was weak and couldn't exert his strength. He barely managed to raise his arm to block. Bam! He was forced to take a step back and stagger. Renli, facing the golden stars that appeared in front of her, swung her waist and kicked out her left leg quickly. In the midst of the shaking, Lu Qing simply took advantage of the momentum and leaped backward. He staggered, his footsteps unsteady, and narrowly avoided the kick. Renli wanted to seize the opportunity to take down her opponent, but the tumbling of her internal organs and qi made her feel dizzy. She couldn't move in time. She had to take a deep breath and return her qi, blood, force, spirit, and the effects of internal explosion to her dantian. Seeing this, Lu Qing hurriedly controlled his spirit with his will and forced himself to do force concentration. His sickness was contained in the ice and fire. Since the beginning of the battle, this was the first time that the battle between the two had slowed down. Wonderful. In the live broadcast room, Xianxia wanted to express his feelings with vulgarities. This is King Wonderful. In this battle, the situation of victory and defeat was constantly changing. Sometimes it was Renly and sometimes it was Lu Cheng. Both of them had been trying to seize the initiative. Throughout the whole battle, there was not a single place to be pissed. The onlookers didn't even dare to take a sip of water for fear that they would miss a crucial moment in the blink of an eye. If the battle just now was divided into segments, everyone would realize that they were fighting fiercely in a state of life and death. This state lasted for a very long time, and only now was it considered to have eased up. If it were most of the rank SIXS, they would have collapsed under this kind of oppressive and aggressive fighting style long ago, but they actually both persevered. They are indeed the heavenly sons of the era. What else can I say? An interesting emoji popped up in Xianxia's mind. As for the live audience, their cheers and shouts at the beginning gradually turned into silence. It wasn't until Lu Cheng and Renly were separated for a short while that the audience woke up from their daze and started cheering loudly and madly. Great. Awesome. Xianxia, who had been staring at the ring, loosened her clenched fists, relieved the pain of biting her lower lip, and recovered a little from the intense feeling of breathlessness. At this moment, she focused her eyes again. Lu Cheng and Renly didn't want to miss the opportunity of each other's weakness. After each force concentration, they immediately rushed forward and closed in on each other fiercely. Chapter 394. Crack. Lu Cheng and Renly both charged at each other with force concentration. In the blink of an eye they were very close to each other. At this moment, Renly suddenly paused as if she had turned into a paper person. She swayed backward lightly under the strong wind created by Lu Cheng's high-speed approach. Then she swayed sideways and staggered away from her opponent with wonderful footwork. She avoided the front and dodged to the side, breaking the rhythm of the battle. Bam! She lowered her waist and gathered her force. Taking advantage of the impact of the dance stage eruption, she threw a cannon punch straight at Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng knew why Renly disrupted his rhythm like this. She was afraid of another collision with the internal explosion punch. In that case, although she wouldn't be seriously injured, she would definitely be seriously injured. In a fight of similar strength, this basically meant that the winner was already decided. If it were some of the sixth-pin fighters who hadn't mastered the simplified physical invulnerability, 3 internal explosion punches would be enough to kill them directly. Therefore, Renly wouldn't confront Lu Cheng directly when he had enough time to prepare. She would definitely disrupt his rhythm in various ways and make him lose his momentum. This was within Lu Cheng's expectation. He didn't expect to easily give his opponent, a heavenly son of the era, another internal explosion punch. However, he had an alternative way of fighting. Lu Cheng's pupils contracted and merged with his qi, blood, and force. Then they gushed out and poured into his right arm, causing the fascia and muscles there to tighten instead of swelling. The internal explosion punch would leave a vibration that would affect the internal organs. I'll trigger it in other ways. Come on, try my thunder roar zen. Boom. Lu Cheng seized the last moment to visualize the thunder cloud shock in his mind. He swung his right arm back and hit Renly's cannon punch. Bam. With a loud explosion, Renly's muscles trembled and the discomfort in her internal organs seemed to be catalyzed. She hurriedly made another force concentration to calm her qi, blood, and dispel the vibration. Lu Cheng was about to swing his arms and use the mighty roar zen of the dance stage consecutive explosion when he suddenly smelled a light fruity fragrance. This was a smell that had never appeared before. The stuffiness in his chest, shortness of breath, and weakness seemed to be affected by the fragrance of the fruit and started to stir again. It made his head hurt slightly and he felt nauseous. His breathing was slightly tight. Could it be the strange kung fu developed by the Kongtong school that Ke mentioned? Killing gas? Biochemical martial arts? Renly didn't use it earlier because she wasn't at the inhuman stage and wasn't close to physical invulnerability. She wouldn't be able to produce any obvious effects. Even if she used it, it wouldn't affect me in any way. But when I was hit by the simplified physical invulnerability of the plague sect, there would be a catalyst in my body. This gas would then be able to work its magic and cause my symptoms to become more and more obvious. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, he immediately redirected his qi and blood to neutralize the effect with force concentration. Then he held his breath, turned right, and swung his left arm at Renly as if he was holding a sledgehammer. The force in Renly's dantian gushed out and her arms swelled. Her left fist slanted upwards and blocked another thunder roar zen. Bam! Her body jumped slightly uncontrollably, and her qi and blood started to roll again. This time it was stronger than before. The fruit fragrance within a 1-meter radius became more obvious as their fists collided. The speed at which it condensed inward was faster than the speed at which it spread outward. Lu Qing held his breath, did Dan concentration and used Thunder Roar Zen. He wanted to completely trigger the internal explosion in Ren Li's body before his symptoms affected the fight. He had also learned some new moves of the Ice Sect, but at this moment the most effective one was Thunder Roar Zen. A martial artist couldn't always give up what was near and seek what was far away just to catch his opponent off guard. Otherwise he would make a big mistake. In a word, the most essential principle of a martial arts fight was to defeat the enemy with the most suitable move at the most appropriate time. Ren Li used force concentration again and again to neutralize and restrain the discomfort in her body. She also used the explosion to throw punches and use the hidden fragrance. She wanted to break down Lu Cheng's combat power and win the fight before the vibration in her body was completely detonated. This was the most effective way she could see at the moment. Triple explosion, quadruple explosion, quintuple explosion. Lu Cheng clenched his teeth and didn't breathe. He swung his arms and used Thunder Roar Zen frequently. He was like a blacksmith who was swinging a sledgehammer to hit the sword in front of him with bulging muscles. Once, twice, thrice, 4 times. He opened his eyes angrily. He endured the constriction of his pupils, the tightness in his chest, and the gradual weakness in his body, and punched out again and again. Bam bam bam. Ren Li didn't retreat half a step. She also used force concentration to suppress her churning qi and blood and trembling internal organs. Her fine blood vessels were broken one by one. Her white skin showed a faint red color and her eyes were bloodshot. The taste of rust in her throat and the blood in her gums complemented each other. Oh. Lu Qing should have reached his limit. He should have been short of breath and weak. There should be obvious signs. Sextuple explosion, septuple explosion, octuple explosion. Ren Li saw that Lu Qing in front of her was full of vigor and fighting spirit. He was tough as if he had walked on the edge of life and death. She couldn't see his real condition. No, I can't fight to the death like this. Ren Li's vigor was suppressed. A thought flashed through her mind. She wanted to change her way of fighting. After another force concentration, she leaned forward with her back and raised her right leg. With a ferocious kick, she forced Lu Qing to retreat and found an opening. Then she shrank back and quickly adjusted her breathing. Using the Dan concentration, she tried her best to calm the discomfort in her body. In such a fierce battle and such a high-intensity collision, Lu Qing had long been unable to hold his breath. After taking a few breaths of the fruit fragrance, his head began to ache in dizziness. His chest was so tight that he couldn't breathe properly. His body was exhausted. Seeing that Ren Li retreated, he quickly withdrew his qi and blood and rushed to the side with a crack. He rushed out of the place where he had been standing and breathed in the fresh air. If he didn't slow down, he wouldn't be able to hold on. Seeing this, Ren Li was a little annoyed. She didn't expect Lu Qing to be at the edge of his limit. She could still hold on for 3 or 4 tremor punches. In the seats of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Xianxia vaguely understood what was going on after witnessing her boyfriend's thirst for air. Her heart was in a mess. She was worried, praying, and a little proud at the same time. Qing had forced Ren Li to use that move? This was probably her trump card to deal with Peng Liyun. At this moment, Lu Qing, who had recovered a little, didn't think about anything else. He made a gesture with his hands and outlined the ancient characters in his mind. He shouted in a low voice, "Okay." He jumped out and rushed to Ren Li. His heart was filled with a strong fighting spirit. Don't be a coward. Just do it. Life and death were nothing. Just do it. Lu Qing gathered his qi and blood and immediately spurted out the residual fragrance. He pulled back his arm and moved forward, fiercely striking with tremor zen again. Ren Li's vigor was taken away, and her negative emotions affected her state. She couldn't avoid Lu Cheng's approach. She had to use force concentration to stimulate hidden fragrance again. Bam! Ren Li's muscles were trembling and her eyes were redder. She couldn't hold back the rolling qi and blood in her throat. Lu Qing held his breath and stopped breathing. He withdrew his qi and blood and swung his left arm. Bam! 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 He punched Ren Li again and again, and the muffled sound reverberated outside. It was as if his punches were knocking on the hearts of Lu Chang, Qin Sanxing, Yan Shaoling, Mu Jinyan, and the others as well as the hearts of everyone in the audience. Bam! 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 Lu Cheng's vision was blurred. He shook his right arm, clenched his fist, and struck with tremor zen again. Boom! Ren Li blocked with her arms. Her qi and blood were shaken again, and the residual effect of internal explosion in her body was completely triggered. Her internal organs seemed to be spasming, her head was dizzy, and blood was flowing out of her throat. Ren Li's stance suddenly collapsed. Chance. Lu Cheng's eyes widened. He braced himself for the explosive strength in his shoulders and was about to throw a side uppercut at his opponent's temple. But at this time, everything in front of him was blurred, and he was in a trance like a slow-motion replay of a movie. Have I reached my limit? He saw his fist slowly moving towards Ren Li's head. He saw his opponent slowly swinging her arm towards his throat as if she was seeking victory in the midst of her defeat. Buff, buff. Both of their fists were caught by the referee at the same time. At the last moment, Lu Qing seized the opportunity, but his strength was slow and his movement was slow. Ren Li was in the same situation, but she was better. Therefore she found the opportunity to hurt both of them. As for Ren Li, she was able to block Lu Cheng's attack in time. However, after blocking it, she had no strength to fight back and could only wait to be captured. She didn't know whether Lu Cheng still had any strength left, so it was natural for her to take the risk. As for Lu Cheng, if it weren't for his tenacious will and the momentum he had tempered through life and death situations, he wouldn't have been able to hold on until the end. How could he have any strength left? If this punch didn't hit, there would be nothing left. The referee waited for a while, raised his arm and announced loudly, "The first round, a draw." This was the first draw in the National University Martial Arts competitions. When the referee shouted, he waved his arm, which made a crisp sound. A strong wind blew away the hidden fragrance lingering around Lu Cheng, making his mind clear. He no longer saw everything in slow motion, including himself. Lu Cheng wasn't upset about the result of this round. On the contrary, he was quite happy. In terms of actual combat strength, Ren Li was indeed 30% stronger than him. She was also more powerful than Peng Liyun in December last year. If he hadn't suppressed her with his momentum and the momentum of a life-and-death struggle, it would have been reasonable for him to lose. But now, with the experience of this match, I can summarize and improve again. Very good. I've made great progress compared to the last Heavenly Son of the Age battle. I won't lose face again. Lu Cheng turned sideways and waved his fist at xianxia, who was sitting in the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club. He waved his fist weakly but in high spirits. Xianxia exhaled, her eyes shining. Subconsciously, she gave a thumbs up to Lu Cheng. The audience also exhaled and applauded. They were cheering for this classic battle between Lu Cheng and Ren Li, and for the martial arts style they had shown. They deserved to be called the Heavenly Son of the Age. Chapter 395. The waves of cheers grew louder and louder, exceeding the previous highest decibels. Lu Cheng panted heavily to relieve the tightness in his chest and the shortness of his breath. He felt his muscles spasming slightly and was obviously lacking in strength. After more than 10 seconds he managed to recover. His head was no longer in a daze and he could focus on force concentration. Lu Cheng's muscles swelled and his chest wriggled. He opened his throat and spat out a mouthful of unpleasant breath. Then he felt alive again. Even so, he was still weak and short of breath, which required the vigorous metabolism of a strong body to slowly relieve. It was not something that could be done in a short time. Sure enough, I don't have the strength to fight anymore. The last 2 or 3 moves were really squeezed out by my willpower. Lu Cheng's eyes became serious again. He saluted Ren Li and said, "Thank you for letting me win." Ren Li had also made a force concentration with great difficulty and calmed down a little. She returned the salute and was about to speak when she suddenly covered her mouth with her hand and spat out a mouthful of bright red blood. She also felt that a few of her teeth were loosening under the vibration and were about to fall off. 4 mighty ones of Dan's stage, they were full of vigor and vitality. Even if their teeth were knocked off, they could grow back after a while. It was equivalent to changing teeth, so it was not a serious injury. I have to do silent meditation for a few days. Ren Li pursed her lips and said no more. She turned around and walked towards the stone stairs. Her leg muscles were still trembling and twitching. Her steps were quite light and her body was shaking. Xinyu, Jiang Kongchan and the others immediately rushed over to support her. Lu Cheng was the same. On the way back he felt his calves and stomach jumping with every step. He was a little out of breath and had to take deep breaths. Xianxia and Kai Zongming quickly came up and supported him in a flurry. "Awesome. You actually tied." Kai Zongming gave him a thumbs up with his free hand. "Are you praising me, or mocking me?" Lu Cheng asked with a smile. He was actually stuttering when he spoke, which showed that he was not in good condition. Kai Zongming laughed. "Of course I'm praising you. I don't know how many gamblers want to go to the rooftop. No, the rooftop is full of people. The corpses below are piled up to the edge of the rooftop. Most people were betting on who would win or lose. I don't have a choice. Actually, Ren Li has a higher chance of winning. I forced a draw. Lu Qing admitted frankly that he was slightly inferior to Renli. Before he could finish his words, Xianxia, who was on the other side, interrupted him with both anger and concern. Stop talking. It's so strenuous. Should we go to the emergency room? No need. Phew, it's much better than before. I'll be back to normal in a few minutes. After being yelled at, Lu Qing smiled even more happily. Because it was a draw, there was no need to hurry up and not give the opponent a chance to recover. The referee signaled Lin Kei and Chindigua to wait for a while, and then called the staff to clean up the ring. Taking advantage of this gap, Lu Chong, who was in the live stream, lamented in amusement. I didn't expect it to be a draw. That's rare. Isn't it very difficult for the referee to make such a decision? I think it's not a problem to fool a layman like me with the last punch. Chen Sanxing laughed and said, the referee should have considered that both of them would be injured, so it's not a big problem for him to call it a draw. Renli and Lu Qing have obviously reached their limits. It's not the limit of exhaustion, but the limit of the negative state that makes them unable to continue fighting. In this case, they have a good chance of dodging the opponent's attack by lowering their heads and tilting their necks. Then they just stare at each other and can't make any moves. Ah, you're right. It's obvious that Lu Qing and Renli's physical condition is getting worse and worse. Lu Chang said thoughtfully, Renli must have suffered 2 internal explosion punches, which left a residual injury. Then she was hit by Lu Cheng's tremor punch with force concentration, which added up to the shock, which completely triggered the negative status. Her situation is easy to understand, but what about Lu Qing? Inexplicably, his strength is getting weaker and weaker. Chen Sanxing thought carefully for more than 10 seconds, and then signaled the director to replay a few scenes. Stop. Right here. See. After Renli retreated, Lu Qing didn't chase after her. Instead, he rushed to the edge of the side and gasped for breath as if he had been holding his breath for a long time. You mean in the previous round, Lu Qing didn't breathe much, or he didn't dare to breathe? Lu Chang asked in horror. Yes, the secret arts of the plague sect are all strange and unpredictable. They can harm people without anyone noticing. Chen Sanxing sighed. I can't tell what kind of kung fu it was, but I can guess what happened to Lu Qing. He must have been hit by the simplified physical invulnerability of the plague sect when he fought with Renli for the second time, which left some residual effects in his body. Renli definitely wouldn't let go of this chance. She must have kept using the unique skills of the plague sect to strengthen the effect. The unique skills of the plague sect seem to work through the respiratory system. How strange. Lu Chang echoed in surprise. If so, why didn't Lu Qing use guerrilla fighting to avoid the area where the smell settled? This is a martial arts competition. It's a fight between 2 people. He can't do whatever he wants. Chen Sanxing shook his head and smiled. Didn't you see? Renli obviously wanted to seize this opportunity to weaken Lu Qing's combat strength. She kept attacking him with the dance stage, not giving him any chance to escape. From this, we can see that Renli actually has the upper hand during this period. When she feels that she can't hold on anymore and can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, she can take the initiative to force her opponent back and retreat calmly. Lu Qing can't. If he retreated, the situation would be reversed. Of course, Lu Qing would have to grit his teeth and seize this opportunity. If he resorted to guerrilla warfare, Renli could take the opportunity to calm down her qi and blood, heal her injuries, and eliminate the wavering on the spiritual level. Based on the strength they had shown before, she would regain the initiative and increase her chances of winning. Although the outcome is still unknown, at least it would be more beneficial to her. Lu Chang was enlightened. So that's why. Lu Qing's momentum was amazing. He seemed to have no limit. He just wanted to take you down in one breath, even at the cost of his life. No wonder Renli's confidence was shaken and she took the initiative to retreat. Yeah, at that level they can't accurately grasp each other's physical condition. They rely on their willpower, momentum, and confidence to influence the enemy. In this respect, Lu Qing is indeed better than Renli. He made up for the slight difference in strength. I'm not saying that Lu Qing is weak. He has only been practicing martial arts for a short time, but he is almost on par with Renli. He lives up to his name as the heavenly son of the age. At this time on Weibo, Eternal Nightfall Yen Shaoling, Brahmin 001, and Unparalleled Dragon King, all tagged all-knowing man in ganghood. I just want to laugh. Aha. Cover your mouth and run away. I feel more and more that you have the potential to be a toxic healer. It's time to take over sect leader He's position, dog emoji. After practicing martial arts for a year and a half, he tied with Renli. If this is not the heavenly son of the age, what is? I'm waiting for you to post a long Weibo. Let's see how you are going to pester us. Reading these posts, all-knowing man in ganghood breathed heavily. Suddenly he grabbed the cup on the table and threw it out with force. Bang! The cup hit the corner of the wall and broke into pieces. Under superstitious thoughts are not, as previous prediction, many people came to watch. I always feel that you have given the capital a good dose of toxic healer this time. Without Lu Cheng's rebounding of the curse, you have indeed made full use of your strength. I have high hopes for you. Don't say that. Sect leader, he predicted that Songqing University's substitutes were weak and would lose as a whole. Isn't it not time for it to come true? After that, I went to add 100 yuan to Songqing University's win. In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Xianxia glanced at Lu Cheng and clicked his tongue. Not bad. You can fight to this extent. Let's see how that old devil Qi Ling praises her disciple in front of me. Old devil. Lu Cheng recovered a lot. The corner of his mouth twitched and said, Senior Qi should be younger than you, master, right? She looked to be in her early 50s. Younger than me? Xianxia snorted. But she doesn't behave like an old woman. She even calls herself Sister Qi in front of the younger generation. Isn't it normal for women to behave like this? Lu Cheng didn't quite understand his master. He went back to his seat and took a sip of the sedative and brain-invigorating fluid. Senior Qi was a famous beauty in the martial arts circle. She was also very knowledgeable and could draw. The girl lowered her voice and gossiped. Then she complained, Why didn't you care about yourself at all? Why did you have to fight with Renli like that? She knew that Lu Cheng must have judged the situation before doing so, but she still couldn't help nagging. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and smiled. If I had used other moves or fighting methods, I might have been able to reduce the influence of Renli's unique skill of the plague sect. But it was continuous and couldn't be completely blocked. The weakening speed would slow down, but it would be difficult to completely stop. When I was weakening little by little, I wouldn't have used Thunder Roar Zen to increase the influence of Renli and weaken her as well. Then I wouldn't have been able to turn the situation around. While they were talking, the referee checked the field and waved to Chen Digua and Lin Quebec. Lin K had already been standing at the edge of the seats. Seeing that, he leaned over and bumped fists with Lu Cheng and the others one by one. Then he strode toward the stone stairs. His face was calm and his eyes were deep with hidden flames. Whether or not he could defeat the capital depended on his next battle with Chen Digua. The audience also stopped reminiscing about the wonderful battle and turned their attention back to the arena. Chen Digua, go for it. The supporters of the Capital College Martial Arts Club cheered in an organized manner. The others were shouting in bits and pieces. Songqing University, go for it. Lin K, go for it. Of the two heavenly sons of the age who had contributed to the fierce battle, one of them would eventually stay in the semi-finals. Chapter 396. The arena that had been cleaned was very clean. Other than the potholes that couldn't be filled up for the time being, the rest had been cleaned up. Lin K stood in the center and watched Chen Digua, who had a red hero's headband around his head, step by step. He was the second leading member of the Martial Arts Club of Capital College and a direct beneficiary of Rin Li and Peng Liyun's entry into the University Martial Arts Circle. Originally, he was just a little talented and thought that he would not waste his life if he could enter the dance stage in 4 years of college. Plus, he was sure that he would get a diploma and live a good life even if he did not join the professional martial arts circle. However, when Renli entered the school in his sophomore year, he realized how narrow his vision was and how low his goals were. His ambition was ignited and he wanted to achieve something. He did not feel sorry for his vigorous youth. With the help and introduction of Renli and his own hard work, he successfully entered the Kongtong school and received the inheritance of the Wind sect. In May of his second year of college, the forces in his body were integrated into one and the qi was generated from his body. He entered the ranks of the dance stage. In the following 2 years he steadily improved and was now a real professional 7th pin in the dance stage, the second strongest in the university martial arts circle. Of course he also paid a certain price for this. That was he was influenced by Renli. He would often think about martial arts problems while walking. When he was in the mood he would find a place with no people and practice for a long time. As a result, he became a road idiot. His road idiocy was completely different from Renli's. It was not that he could not recognize the road, but that everything around him was strange when he came back to his senses. Once, the president and the vice president of the Martial Arts Club of Capital College went missing at the same time. This is not an easy opponent to deal with. Lin K thought, bits and pieces of the enemy flashing in his mind. Chen Digua got the 7th pin certificate half a year ago. Now he could only be stronger. Chindigua paused and steadied himself. He got into a fighting stance and stretched out his right palm, making a starting gesture. Lin Kei's thoughts returned to normal. All he could see was the enemy in front of him and his every move. He lowered his waist and also got into a fighting stance. The atmosphere suddenly became solemn. In the seating area of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Xianxia put her palms together and put them in front of her mouth. She became nervous again and stopped chatting with her boyfriend. Lu Qing bent forward and put the bottle of sedative and brain-invigorating liquid at his feet. Then he crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at the ring without blinking. He had barely completed his goal. Whether he was a dragon or a worm would depend on his brother-in-law's performance. Renly should be able to break through to the inhuman stage in the second half of the year and become a high-ranked dance stage expert. Peng Liyun will only be faster. Maybe he has already opened the door and is just waiting for a long time to pass. As for myself, I can only say that my overall combat strength is at the top of the 6th pin, but my body's internal training realm has not yet reached this level. Dan Qi was the crossing of a large realm, while inhuman was the advancement of a small realm. In essence, the former obviously brought more changes to a martial artist. However, judging from the performance effects, breaking through to inhuman obviously brought more improvement to one's strength than stepping into the Dan stage. Why is this happening? Because the higher the level of martial arts, the stronger the accumulated power. Even if it was only a relative small improvement, the absolute amount of power obtained would be very terrifying. Just as everyone was holding their breath again, the referee raised his right hand and waved it down directly and forcefully. Start. Lin Kei's body suddenly stopped shaking. He condensed his breath and then immediately exploded, rushing to his feet. His leg muscles thickened and his knee joint straightened. He rushed out with a crack, moving 7 or 8 meters in one leap as fast as a shooting star. As a modern martial artist, Chindigua had already watched countless of Lin Kei's fighting videos. He was deeply impressed by Lin Kei's opening attack and was prepared for it. Bang! He raised his right leg, swung his ankle rapidly in the air, and kicked out a crescent-like strong wind in the opposite direction, going straight to Lin Kei's eyes. This was a kind of cold blade, but his realm and strength were not as good as Ren Li's, so he could not create such a sharp and terrible wind blade. He could only attack the weak points and try to interfere with his opponent's vision. Moreover, Lin Kei's forward movement was so fast that the combination of the two would produce a better impact effect. Maybe it could press the capillaries, lens and optic nerves of his eyeballs, making him temporarily blind. Whoosh! The crescent-like strong wind whistled and rushed. Lin Kei suddenly raised his left hand in front of his chest to block in front of his face. His flying posture did not slow down and forcibly broke through the cold blade. Chindigua did not expect to be able to block a strong opponent only with the blade kick. After his right leg kicked out the strong wind, he quickly returned to his original point, cooperating with the contraction of his chi and blood, strength and spirit. Boom! His Dan Chi erupted like a volcano. He took a step forward and took the initiative to meet the attack. His left arm was extremely heavy, as if it was supported by thousands of pounds. At the same time, Lin Kei suddenly stopped. His muscles trembled and his fascia jumped, transforming the kinetic energy of the high-speed forward movement into the power of the blast of his right hand. Boom! Lin Kei's fist was like a bomb from the barrel of a cannon, hitting the front and exploding the airflow, rolling out shockwaves that were enough to cause internal injuries to ordinary people. Bang! Chindigua's left arm, which had been dragged behind, was ready to be pulled out. Like a steel whip, he fiercely swung it at Lin Kei's meteor blast, not even half a step back. Moreover, the strong wind brought about by his whip blew towards the ground, and actually created a muffled sound of collision. It was enough to show how terrifying its might was. If it was the arena before it was cleaned up, it would definitely cause debris to fly up and dust to scatter. Flying sand and rolling stones in a fight between masters was definitely not a myth or legend. Bang! The whip hit the airflow and burst it. Chindigua's body swayed backward, and he took the opportunity to lift his leg and pull it forward diagonally. He knew very well that Lin Kei was good at using meteor blast followed by earth crack to launch a series of attacks, so he simply performed the unique leg movement of the wind sect, tornado, to attack first and avoid the attack. Bang! 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 He pulled out his two legs continuously, and the strong wind from each attack was integrated into the following attacks, lifting his body half up as if he was flying. Seeing this, Lin Kei arched his body, lowered his center of gravity and pulled his arms apart. Relying on the stretching and retracting of his fascia and the shaking of his joints, he madly threw out many punches, as if he had grown many arms. The 113th move of the fighting sect, 8 arms divine fist. Bah! Bah! His shoulders exploded, and his arms moved quickly, aiming at the opponent's instep, and blasted out a meteor force. Bah! Chindigua seemed to have stepped on a landmine. Numbness and trembling jumped up from his feet. For a moment he felt that his right leg was no longer made of flesh and blood, and had lost connection with his body. His body swayed backward and his chi and blood fluctuated. He slightly recovered on his tiptoes and resisted the urge to immediately use force concentration to eliminate the influence. Instead, he visualized the whistling wind that filled the sky, and used it to control his muscles, fascia, and internal organs. Through their changes and cooperation, he created waves of special waves that filled his whole body. The storm force of the wind sect. He was very clear that if his chi and blood flowed back, Lin Ke would seize the opportunity to perform the ground cracking, and completely lose his balance. Then he would be caught by the follow-up, death sentence. Therefore he had to find another way to deal with it. Bah! Chendigua's body seemed to be filled with chi and became light and weightless. While Lin Ke gathered and released his chi and blood, he stamped his right foot down and plowed with force. Bah! The arena shook violently as if a volcano had come to life inside. The ground under Chendigua's feet cracked, spewing out waves of chi and gravel. However, he was like a kite, swinging backward with the rapid shaking and upward surge. Lin Ke's eyes were still indifferent. Seeing this, he raised his arm, made a gesture, and shouted quickly in a low voice, "Okay." His body moved like lightning, and in a flash he was in front of Chendigua. Chendigua swayed and then used force concentration to stabilize his chi and blood flowed back. While eliminating the influence of the meteor force, he swung his arm and launched a counterattack, making Lin Ke look like he was actively approaching his fist. However, Lin Ke came too fast and he had not finished swinging his arm yet. At this moment, Lin Ke stopped abruptly. Under the circulation of yin and yang, his muscles trembled, turning the forward momentum into a swing of the center of gravity, which involved the drive of the fascia. Bam! Lin Ke moved his body sideways so that Chendigua's fierce punch brushed his body and hit the air. Then he stretched his body, swung his left arm, and hit the enemy's head with a roar like a tiger. Not bad. Lu Qing nodded slightly. Since the beginning of the battle, Lu Qing seemed to be very anxious and fierce, but in fact he was not as reckless as he looked. Now he finally seized the opportunity. Chapter 397. Chendigua knew he was in trouble when he missed his target. He immediately leaned back and lifted his right arm up like a seesaw, narrowly blocking Lin Ke's left fist. Bah! His hastily parried arm was hit and bounced off. Lin Ke used the combination of the 24 blizzard strikes and the yin-yang twist to swing his left arm and step out diagonally with his right foot. At the same time, he straightened his body and sent out his right fist towards his opponent's chest and abdomen without leaving any gap. Before Chendigua entered the Kongtong school, he had already made a name for himself as one of the top professional ninth-pin fighters. What he practiced was the Tai Chi hammering method, which was passed down in his family. At this critical moment, he straightened his back with the help of the momentum of his right arm and threw his left fist in front of him. Bah! With a muffled thud, he hastily blocked and retreated before he could stabilize himself. However, once Lin Ke's mega avalanche was launched, it would not be so simple. He retracted his fist and tightened his leg. With a spring of his knee, he launched a low kick with the tip of his foot. It was smooth and ferocious, not giving his opponent a chance to use force concentration. It seemed that he wanted to use this body-refining kung fu to directly kill his opponent. Amidst the continuous explosions, Chendigua barely managed to fend off the storm-like attacks, and gradually began to feel suffocated. He knew he couldn't go on like this. If Lin Ke kept winning, it wouldn't take much energy for him to defeat him. Bah! Chendigua hurriedly raised his left arm and blocked Lin Ke's blast punch with iron chain crossing the river. While his body was swaying, he suddenly shook his right wrist at a high speed. With the infusion of storm force, he shook out a crescent-shaped strong wind and directly attacked his opponent's eyes. Wrist sword, the exclusive move of the Chens. Chendigua was just an ordinary disciple in the Kongtong school. He was not a core disciple, so the storm force he was taught was not a top-secret skill of the Wind sect. Unlike Lu Cheng's frost force, it could not be promoted to a core force. Driven by it, the power of Cold Blade was not as good as Ren Li's when she was at the same level. Chendigua accepted the fact, but he didn't want to accept the result. He thought hard every day and practiced from time to time. Under Ren Li's guidance and the reference of many materials, he modified the skills of Cold Blade to suit himself better and created the wrist sword. In terms of effect, it didn't improve, but it was faster and more subtle. It had become one of Qin trump cards. Its biggest use was to break combos and disrupt the rhythm. Of course, he had the time to think about these things because his strength improved slowly. Unlike Lu Cheng and Lin Ke who improved rapidly, he had too many things to learn and master. He didn't have the time to think about these things. As soon as the wrist sword was drawn, Lin Ke felt a sharp pain in his eyes as he sensed danger approaching. This wouldn't hurt him, but it was enough to suppress his eyes and cause a temporary negative effect. It was like being slapped in the eyes by a child. He was in an attacking position and had no time to parry. He immediately lowered his center of gravity and buried his head. "I just want you to slow down." Chen Digua swung the wrist sword and withdrew his qi and blood without hesitation. Taking advantage of the pause of the mega avalanche, he exploded his Dantian force, swelled his left arm and fiercely punched out. He changed from defense to offense and launched a counterattack. Lin Ke was also a seasoned fighter. He knew that if he hastily dodged the wrist sword, he would be attacked continuously. He lowered his center of gravity and withdrew his qi and blood as well as his force. Now that the meteor was falling to the ground and the volcano was erupting, he threw out a punch and collided with Chendigua's attack head-on. Bam! Their fists bulged with small muscles and bulged with blue and black veins. They seemed to be stuck together in the air and were frozen in place. After a moment, a strong wind blew, blowing away the debris they stepped on. In the spreading airwaves they both staggered backward and bounced their arms back. At this moment, Chendigua made another Dan concentration, and kicked out his right leg with the ferocious momentum of double explosion. He had thought it through. Since he had found an opportunity with the wrist sword, he had to make a series of explosions and force Lin Ke to do the same. In this way, even if he lost to Lin Ke in the end, he would almost exhaust Lin Ke's physical strength, which would give Xiaochan, who would be the last to fight, a good victory. From the previous matches, it could be seen that Lin Ke improved very fast. In his peak state he could probably make 7 or 8 explosions. With the top inheritance of the fighting sect, it was absolutely right to say that he was a strong 7th pin fighter. However, Chendigua was not weak either. Although the force he had been taught was not the best and the moves of the Wind sect were not many, he could also make 7 or 8 explosions as a senior 7th pin fighter. At close range he was facing consecutive explosions from an opponent of the same level. With these two conditions added together, Lin Ke naturally couldn't take it lightly. He could only follow suit and retract his qi and force to deal with the rebound from the collision just now. He quickly pulled back his leg and blocked the enemy's kick with a bang, setting off a violent wind. Bam! Bam! Without any hesitation, Chendigua made triple explosion, quadruple explosion, elbow strike and knee strike. Without any pause he continued to attack. Bam! Bam! Lin Ke firmly resisted and integrated 24 blizzard strikes, and yin-yang twist, into the consecutive explosions of the Dan stage. Every move he made was more and more powerful. Chendigua knew that Lin Ke was good at leveraging his opponent's strength, but he didn't expect that Lin Ke could do it so well. After the quadruple explosion, Chendigua was horrified to find that he couldn't suppress his opponent anymore. Bam! Lin Ke gathered all his senses into his lower abdomen. Using the force of the explosion, he stretched his body and punched out with his fist like he was holding a giant hammer. Chendigua gritted his teeth and withdrew his qi and blood. He made 5 explosions in a row and moved his left arm upward. He had to do so or he would be beaten to a pulp immediately. The situation he had worked so hard to avoid had become a trap to restrain himself. Bam! 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 Chendigua felt that his opponent's strength was so great that he could not resist it anymore. He could not help but retreat quickly. Lin Ke's eyes were deep. He did not hesitate to withdraw his qi and strength, which immediately burst out and thickened his legs. He stamped his right foot at the right time and plowed the ground. He used the unique skill of the fighting sect, ground cracking, before his opponent could use storm force. 6 consecutive explosions. Boom! The arena where Chendigua's feet landed suddenly shook and a crack appeared. The force made him lose his center of gravity and temporarily lose his balance. Lin Ke straightened his knees, and with the rebounding force of his stomp, he pounced forward and was in front of Chendigua. He hurriedly stretched out his right palm, opened his fingers and tried to grab Chendigua's shoulder to complete the death sentence combo. Just as he was about to touch Chendigua's shoulder, Chendigua retracted his qi and blood in time and bent down to avoid being caught. Then he expanded his Dan force and was about to shake his arm to catch his enemy. The 14th move of the Wind sect, coil. But how could Lin Ke's death sentence be so simple? Failing to catch Chendigua, Lin Ke immediately stepped forward and squatted down, bending his arm so that his elbow directly blocked Chindigwa's counterattack arm. His position was precisely the key point of the force. He neutralized the explosion of the dance stage with a normal move. Then Lin Ke turned sideways and crashed into Chindigwa like a meteorite falling to the ground. Here the death sentence was no longer a closing move, but a connecting move in the middle. Bang! Chindigwa barely blocked it with his arms and continued to retreat. Lin Ke slid forward and reached out his right arm again. It was the death sentence again. Seeing that his opponent's 5 fingers had fallen on his shoulder, Chindigwa took a deep breath and visualized the roaring wind between heaven and earth. He infused his strength to all parts of his body. His muscles swelled as if they were full of gas. Lin Ke squeezed his fingers and they bounced back. How could the wind be caught? Just as he bounced back, Lin Ke leaned sideways again. This time he used force concentration. His body grew taller and he leaned forward with even more terrifying power than before. Bang! Chindigwa retracted his arm and blocked in front of his body, but his stance was broken again. Because of the lack of new strength, he lost the feeling of floating. In this fight, Lin Ke's attacks were airtight like stormy waves, which made people feel that he could win at any time. However, Chindigwa kept dodging and always survived. Even if he had exhausted all his skills, Lu Cheng and the others were still frightened. They were afraid that Lin Ke would be careless and let his opponent escape like the wind. In that case, there would be a hard fight in the future. Chindigwa was indeed a veteran of the 7th pin. At this time, Lin Ke came forward for the 3rd time. He still stretched out his right arm and tried to connect with the death sentence. Chindigwa's center of gravity was unstable and his stance was broken. He had no other choice but to force his qi and blood to flow back and shrink his body in advance. At this time Lin Ke, who had learned his lesson, turned his claw into a palm. With a swing of his elbow, he hit Chindigwa's shoulder. Chindigwa trembled and his qi and blood dispersed. His force concentration failed. While Chindigwa was trembling, Lin Ke opened his 5 fingers and finally grasped his shoulder. Then he visualized the scene of a meteor streaking across the sky and poured his strength into his opponent's body. It temporarily impacted his tendons and veins and disintegrated his opponent's resistance. Lin Ke pressed his elbow and jumped up with Chindigwa in his hand. He slammed Chindigwa to the ground. The 10th move of the fighting sect, death sentence. Bang! Dust and gravel flew everywhere. Chindigwa was dizzy and felt pain all over his body. He couldn't move for a while. The loud voice of the referee echoed in his ears. Round 2, Lin Ke wins. Chapter 398. Beautiful. In the studio, Qin Sanxing slapped his thigh and praised loudly as if he was a little excited. Amidst the crisp sound of flesh hitting flesh, the host, Lu Chang, inexplicably shuddered. He moved his thigh a little to prevent his partner from accidentally hitting the car. Then he chuckled and said, "It's indeed not bad. Student Sanxing, can you hurry up and tell everyone what is beautiful?" Timing, rhythm, connection, everything is beautiful. Lin Ke's dead end has reached a higher level. Qin Sanxing said with great praise, "Let me give you an example." When Lin Ke really caught Chindigwa, he grasped the timing very well. If he instantly turned his claws into palms to slap his opponent, Chindigwa could take the opportunity to lower his shoulders and use force concentration to completely neutralize Lin Ke's attack. If Lin Ke was a little late, Chindigwa's force concentration would have been completed and his qi, blood, and force would have started to shrink. Then Lin Ke's slap would have hit the air, which wouldn't have produced a good effect. So, it's not too early or too late. Lu Chang echoed in a rhetorical way. Qin Sanxing nodded and said, "Yes, this is the essence of the death tribulation. Once you are trapped in the tribulation, you will always be interrupted by Lin Ke's well-connected and well-timed combo attacks. You will never be able to break free and will only be able to cope with them. You can see this from the fact that the 10th move of the fighting sect is not the simplified physical invulnerability, but the death tribulation." Good. Lu Chang praised twice and then asked, "Sanxing, how much strength do you think Lin Ke has left? Can he defeat Jiang Kongchan, who is the last fighter in the capital?" "It's hard to say." Qin Sanxing shook his head and smiled. "It's not that I don't dare to judge or predict. Anyway, since I've been a guest commentator, I'm used to it. It's just that I really can't make a prediction, because neither Lin Ke nor Jiang Kongchan has shown their full strength in the past 2 months." "That's right. Lin Ke won the previous few matches with ease, and Jiang Kongchan didn't fight much." Lu Chang nodded slightly. "But now Lin Ke seems to have consumed a lot of energy." The director switched the screen to the scene and showed Lin Ke in the arena. He was sweating profusely and his hair was half wet. He was panting and adjusting his qi circulation. Jiang Kongchan is no match for Jiang Kongchan. Yes, Chindigua is not easy to deal with. He is the second most powerful of all the second generals. Lin Ke is lucky that he still has 30% or 40% of his strength left. Jiang Kongchan entered the Dan stage at the end of the year and was a disciple of the Kongtong school. She got the inheritance of the Wind sect. Although it is not the core content of the Wind sect, it is enough for her to enter the stage of rapid progress. Now that more than 2 months have passed, it is hard to say how powerful she is. Well, the fact that the capital chose her instead of Jiang Jingfeng shows that she is at least a little stronger than ordinary professional 8th pin fighters, Qin Sanxing said quickly. After breaking through to a higher realm, almost all martial artists would experience a period of rapid progress due to the difference in their cultivation levels and cultivation methods. Lu Qing, Lin Ke, Renli, and Peng Liyun were all like this. Qin Sanxing believed that Jiang Kongchan would be no exception, but at most she would not experience such a great improvement. So, Jiang Kongchan has a good chance of winning. Songqing University is in danger, Lu Chang said thoughtfully. Before he finished his words, he suddenly laughed. It's funny now that you mention it. The capital is the backyard of the Kongtong school. Why are they all disciples of the Kongtong school? Not all of them. Jiang Jingfeng is not. Qin Sanxing said with a smile. With Renli here, once there are talented young warriors, no school can compete with the Kongtong school. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. But Shanbei is not like that. Lu Chang subconsciously retorted. That's because Fang Zhirong had inherited the Wind sect before he entered the school. Su Wanyan's martial arts strength has been stagnant, except for the improvement of his supernatural ability. How could he be chosen by the Shangqing sect? Even so, he is now an outsider of the Shangqing sect. Haha, the martial arts club of each school is different. The members are different. We can't generalize. As soon as Qin Sanxing finished his words, the director switched the screen back to the scene. The third round was about to begin. Phew. When Lin Ke finally caught Chindigua and threw him to the ground, Lu Qing was secretly relieved. He felt ashamed that he had doubted his brother-in-law's impromptu performance. But then again, the death sentence is really interesting. Phew. Xianxia didn't hide her reaction. She patted her chest and heaved a long sigh of relief. Joy flashed in her eyes, but soon she became worried. She lowered her voice and asked, Qing, how much strength do you think my brother has left? Lu Qing looked at Lin Ke in the arena and put his head close to his girlfriend's ear. Didn't I fight with your brother before the national championship? His limit is 7 consecutive explosions. Lu Qing's breath was a little short because of the influence of the hidden fragrance in his body. But with his strong body and vigorous metabolism, he had completely recovered and didn't need to receive treatment. My brother just did a sextuple explosion and a few scattered bursts. He also used force and combos. Xianxia rolled her eyes and counted with her fingers. Can he still do 2 or 3 force concentrations? The difficulty of the Dan stage consecutive explosion was gradually stacked. Lin Ke, who could perform 7 consecutive explosions, could perform 2 5 consecutive explosions. However, once he performed 6 consecutive explosions, he would definitely not be able to perform 4 consecutive explosions. It could only be said that he was more than capable of performing 3 consecutive explosions. Taking into account the other consumption during such a long and fierce battle, the result could be imagined. Lu Qing thought for a while and comforted him. Previously it was just an exchange of pointers. We didn't fight to the death. Your brother should still have some potential. Moreover, it's been more than half a month. It's not like your brother hasn't been practicing martial arts or participating in the challenge tournament. He should have made some progress. I'm guessing that it won't be a problem for him to do another double explosion and 1 or 2 scattered force concentrations. In this aspect, he's about the same as those who have just entered the Dan stage. This is a situation where he doesn't use his force, and one is tired and in bad condition while the other is just in the arena. He's in his prime in all aspects. Xianxia puffed up her cheeks with worry and nervousness in her eyes. Lu Qing chuckled and grabbed the girl's hand. In a real battle, there are too many factors to win. You have to trust your brother. He has a good chance of winning. Even if he loses in the end, he'll definitely exhaust Jiang Kongchan. While speaking, Lu Qing also felt a little uneasy. Jiang Kongchan's specific level was still unknown. He only knew that she had entered the Dan stage after the Spring Festival, and her previous few fights were quite normal, not revealing her true strength. Xianxia was about to say something, but suddenly she pursed her lips because she saw Jiang Kongchan enter the arena. The third round was about to begin. Boo hoo hoo, I'm so nervous, so nervous. In Lu Cheng's fan forum, Brahmin was shivering. What are you afraid of? At worst you'll lose. It's good enough that you're in the top 4. Unparalleled Dragon King deliberately made a joke and replied with a be strong emoji. Eternal Nightfall, Yin Shaoling appeared and said, go away. I don't have such an elder. Boo hoo hoo, I don't want to see Lu Cheng's efforts in vain. All the good names are taken by dogs, and others surfaced and expressed a sigh. Then they sank and turned their eyes to the broadcast screen. The third round was about to begin. In the seats of Capital Academy, when Chindigua was grabbed and slammed to the ground, the cute Jiang Kongchan didn't immediately stand up. She still put her hands together and stared at the arena attentively. It seemed that she still had some hope that senior brother Chin could be saved. When the referee announced the result, she sighed and left her seat. At this time Rin Li, who had recovered from the concussion internal injury, waved her fist and shouted like a cheerleader, Little Chan, come on. Kongchan, don't be nervous. Do your best. You can win. The calm Xinyu encouraged her. Jiang Kongchan covered her mouth and laughed. Senior brother Xin, I'm not nervous. I've been tortured by senior sisters one situation after another every day. No, I've been trained to be calm even if Mount Tai collapses in front of me. I won't be happy if you say that. Renli muttered. She was very concerned about the result, but she didn't show it. Instead, she cooperated with Jiang Kongchan by joking. While talking, Jiang Kongchan took a deep breath and strode to the stone steps. On the way, she met Chindigua, who was in pain and dizzy from the fall. Chindigua punched her with his fist and reminded her in a low voice, don't be scared. Lin Ke may not be able to defeat you in a head-on fight now. The last few rounds gave him a general idea of Lin Ke's current state. Jiang Kongchan nodded hard, put away all kinds of thoughts and quickly approached the arena. When she stood in front of Lin Ke, she had already made up her mind. She couldn't be scared, nor could she underestimate him. She didn't have to worry about being defeated by Lin Ke quickly, nor did she think that he had reached his limit and that she could defeat him in a few rounds. She would play what she was good at and fight as usual. The referee looked around and didn't waste any more time. He raised his hand and waved down, shouting loudly, start. The third round officially began. In the cheers of the audience, Lin Ke moved. He pounced like a cheetah, swept across the distance of 7 or 8 meters, and attacked his opponent first. Seeing this, Jiang Kongchan was relieved and in awe. She was relieved because Lin Ke had consumed a lot of energy and didn't want to attack with the explosion of the dance stage and the sound of the attainment formula at the beginning. She was in awe because his opponent was very aggressive and didn't show any weakness. Jiang Kongchan took a step forward. Her body movements were as light as the wind, and after a clever turn, she avoided the front and flashed to the side of her opponent. Lin Ke suddenly stopped and turned the kinetic energy into impact force in the trembling muscles and fascia of his body. He swung his arm to the right, which echoed with a muffled sound like thunder. Just as he was about to make a move, Jiang Kongchan used her absolute reaction. She drifted backward lightly, touched the ground with her tiptoes, and immediately bounced forward. Her arm rushed up and her fist shot out like lightning. Whoosh! Jiang Kongchan blocked Lin Ke's counterpunch with a punch. With a sharp sound of friction, Jiang Kongchan blocked Lin Ke's counterpunch. Bang! Both of their bodies swayed at the same time, and Jiang Kongchan showed a look of joy. Lin Ke's strength had dropped to the same level as hers. Chapter 399. Although the strength of the two sides was still at the same level, one of them was exhausted after a long battle and was deteriorating faster and faster, while the other had just entered the arena and was in peak physical condition, which could be maintained for a while. It was obvious who had the upper hand and who was in a difficult situation. With this thought in mind, Jiang Kongchan's courage was boosted. Her momentum soared in an instant, and she gained the upper hand in this subtle confrontation. Just as her right fist returned to its original position, a burst of energy burst out from her left shoulder. She thrust her arm, forearm, and wrist forward one after another and straightened up like a big spear. With a bang, her fist shot toward the enemy's side, aiming straight for his temple. Lin Ke's counterpunch was blocked, so he immediately pulled back his right foot and turned his body so that his face was facing Jiang Kongchan. Then he raised his left arm in front of his chest and hit his opponent's fist in a semi-defensive manner. At this moment, Jiang Kongchan stepped to the left and flashed to the enemy's side again. Then she forcibly changed the direction of her left fist and made it deviate from its original trajectory, but the target was still the same. At this moment, the strength of her fist had been exhausted. She suddenly drove her joints, stretched her fascia, and flicked her 5 fingers toward Lin Ke's temple with abrupt force. This was the dance stage version of Wuthering 8 movements, which combined the 8 movements and gave rise to many changes. The most prominent feature was called wind generated by footsteps. This wasn't to describe the swiftness and agility of the body movements of this martial art. Instead, it meant that the core of the fighting style was under the feet in the footwork so as to command the body. Then the body would pull and change the direction of the fist and palm, making the attack unpredictable and rather restrain the absolute reaction. Even if a dance stage martial artist could detect the sudden change of target within a short distance, he wouldn't be able to make a good response in time. Although Jiang Kongchan had confirmed Lin Kei's exhaustion and boosted her confidence, she was never one to get carried away easily. She still remembered her opponent's true strength and knew that he still had the strength to launch 1, 2, or even 3 attacks. Therefore, she decided to use the dance stage version of the Wuthering 8 movements to fight. She planned to use the dangerous guerrilla warfare to gradually wear down her opponent and wear him down. This fighting style was called Thorns and Gentleness, and Needles Hidden in Cotton. When Jiang Kongchan flicked her 5 fingers, Lin Kei felt a sharp pain in his temples and subconsciously tilted his head to the other side to avoid the attack. Then he lifted his shoulder and swung his elbow, turning his right palm into a knife and poked his opponent's pulse with the tip. Jiang Kongchan immediately retracted her left arm, arched her body slightly, and stepped forward with her right foot, aiming at the enemy's ankle joint. At the same time, she hid her right fist at her waist and threw it out quietly like a chilly wind, aiming at her opponent's waist. Her attack was so smooth that it was like the continuous sound of wind in the wilderness. Moreover, her killing moves were hidden and deadly. Lin Kei took a deep breath, shifted his center of gravity to the left, and moved his body horizontally, just in time to avoid the girl's consecutive attacks. As soon as the tip of his foot touched the ground, he immediately exerted his strength and turned his body into a falling meteorite, fiercely crashing into his opponent. However, Jiang Kongchan had long since missed her target. She tapped her right foot on the ground and nimbly dodged to the side. She was still using the dance stage version of the Wuthering 8 movements. Not bad. In the live broadcast room, Qin Sanxing praised, she really has the charm of the wind. She can make such an effect out of a wind-sect kung fu that is not very powerful. In the past 5 years, only Renli is stronger than her at the same level and stage. This was not referring to her strength, but to her mastery of the essence of martial arts. That's right. I still remember when Renli had just reached rank 8. When the weak challenged the strong, her figure was really like the wind, whistling continuously and unpredictable. The host Lu Chang echoed. This was the way to fight the weak against the strong. In the previous battle, Renli had regarded him as an equal opponent, so she didn't use this method. Instead, she seized the initiative to seize the initiative and gain the upper hand. While the host and the guest commentator were talking, Jiang Kongchan and Lin Kei had already exchanged many moves, and the sound of clapping could be heard constantly. No, Lin Kei can't go on like this. Qin Sanxing smacked his lips. Whether he just wanted to show his weakness to lure Jiang Kongchan into making a mistake or not, he has to change his way of fighting now. If it goes on like this, Jiang Kongchan will only tire him out. The girl with the round face was indeed cautious and patient, and she didn't show any sign of fear. Before his voice had died away, Jiang Kongchan slid to the back of Lin Kei and shook her right arm, which turned into a big spear. She tore through the air and pointed it at the back of Lin Kei's head. However, Lin Kei didn't respond according to the normal way. He just lowered his head and stepped forward with his left foot. An opportunity. As a martial artist, how could she let go of such a flaw? Jiang Kongchan instinctively shook her shoulder and turned the spear poke into a hammer strike. She swung her arm down at the back of Lin Kei's neck. Lin Kei's posture was so perfect that he couldn't hold it in any longer and had to give him a punch. At this moment, Lin Kei suddenly withdrew his qi, blood, strength, spirit, and other senses along with the movement of stepping forward. His whole body suddenly became empty. Following which, his dantian exploded and rushed to his neck. In an instant, it swelled up and became extremely terrifying. It was as if a serpent had turned into a dragon. Jiang Kongchan's hammer strike seemed to hit a rubber ball full of water, and she couldn't find a way to penetrate it. At this moment, Lin Kei suddenly raised his head, straightened his neck, and shook off Jiang Kongchan's fist, which prevented her from continuing her attack. At the same time, his body trembled, and he channeled all the strength he had and borrowed into his right foot. Then he suddenly stomped backward and plowed the ground. The 16th move of the fighting sect, earth-splitting. Clang. Jiang Kongchan, who hadn't had time to swim away, shook violently under her feet. A crack expanded in all directions and a majestic force gushed out, which made her unable to stabilize her body and was about to fall backward. Damn. Jianghu didn't dare to hide her strength anymore. She immediately withdrew her qi and blood to maintain her center of gravity, and then she swelled her muscles and threw a blast punch forward, which made a roaring sound. At this critical moment she didn't defend herself and counterattacked. After Lin Kei's successful attack, he immediately took advantage of the rebound force under his feet, turned around fiercely and swung his right arm. Bang! A muffled explosion echoed around. Although Lin Kei had borrowed strength, he still couldn't bear the power of Jianghu dance stage explosion. His body swayed backward as if he was about to retreat. But at this time his muscles and fascia trembled again, and he immediately withdrew his qi, blood, and spirit to connect the force concentration with the yin-yang twist technique. Boom. He took half a step forward, swung his arm quickly, and hit his opponent in the explosion of qi. Wait a little longer. Let's waste one more time of Lin Kei's dance stage explosion. Thinking quickly, Jianghu had no other choice but to do the force concentration, and drive her left fist with the double explosion. Bang! The sound of the collision was loud. Jianghu was slightly inferior to Lin Kei, who had borrowed strength, so she took a step back and bounced back a few meters. Of course, Lin Kei wouldn't let go of this opportunity. He raised his hands, visualized the ancient characters, and said in a low voice, "Okay." As his voice echoed, he rushed to Jianghu like a flash of lightning. In an instant he was in front of his opponent. Once again he withdrew his qi, blood, strength, spirit, and all kinds of feelings and made an explosive blow like a meteor falling to the ground. When this move broke Jianghu's stance, it was time for the death sentence to take effect. Because Lin Kei had already used the double explosion, Jianghu temporarily didn't have the strength to do the dance stage concentration again. She took a deep breath, adjusted her muscles, fascia, and internal organs, and visualized the corresponding scene. Bang! She met the enemy with a straight punch. Boom! As if a bomb had exploded on the spot, Jianghu's attack barely penetrated the air and blocked Lin Kei's fist. Her blue and black veins bulged. She couldn't bear the terrible strength of her opponent. Her arms bounced off and her body swayed. She lost her stance and stumbled back a few steps. Lin Kei was about to slide forward and reach out his right palm to connect with the death sentence. But suddenly he felt his body was weak and his breath was short. This is the plague sect force? Has she mastered the force? Moreover, Jianghu had just entered the dance stage 2 months ago and didn't have any supernatural ability. Even if she could master the force, she wouldn't have time to master more than one force. In other words, she didn't major in the wind sect and minor in the plague sect. Instead, her major in the plague sect and minor in the wind sect. Lin Kei's pupils constricted. He felt his body was weak and couldn't move forward for a short time. With his physical quality, even at the beginning of the battle, he wouldn't be completely weak after being hit by the plague sect force, let alone when he was in his best condition. He could easily solve it with a force concentration. But now he had made 3 dance stage outbursts. Although they weren't consecutive, he was close to his limit. Naturally, he couldn't bear such a degree of erosion. If it were pain or trauma, he could bear it. But this kind of negative state was not something he could force himself to continue attacking. Moreover, he couldn't use force concentration to weaken the effect for a while, because this was a type of consecutive outbursts. After 3 outbursts, he couldn't make any more consecutive outbursts. While Lin Kei was stuck, Jianghu adjusted her body with the skill mercurial balance. She regained her balance and stopped retreating. She didn't continue to fight. Instead, she tightened and released her foot and shot forward like lightning. She rushed to her opponent's side and seized this rare opportunity to kick out her right foot. Lin Kei barely raised his leg to block the kick. Jianghu took advantage of this opportunity to jump up again. Her body was half floating in the air and she kicked out continuously. The 27th move of the wind sect, tornado. Bang bang bang. After a few kicks, the weak Lin Kei couldn't find a chance to use force concentration, and was kicked out of his stance by his opponent. The referee pressed down on Jianghu's shoulder, stopping her continuous kicks, and said loudly, "Mississippi round 3, Jianghu wins." Phew, it seems that Jianghu has practiced the plague sect's force. If she had practiced the wind sect's force, Lin Kei would have been able to hold on for a while and finish her off with the death sentence. What a surprise. Qin Sanxing sighed. Songqing University is in danger. Jianghu has consumed a lot of energy, but she can at least make 1 dance stage outburst and use the plague sect force several times. It's very very difficult for a top professional 9th pin fighter to win. Being able to use force was one of the signs of a 7th pin fighter. As long as Jiang Kongchan's physical quality was up to standard, she could get a 7th pin certificate. Therefore Qin Sanxing watched Songqing University carefully. Chapter 400. While Qin Sanxing was lamenting, He Xiaowei posted a message on Weibo. I told you. Songqing University's substitute is too weak. How can they beat the capital? Horses can make mistakes and people can make mistakes. I made a few wrong predictions and you called me a bad healer. Now you believe that I'm actually very reliable, right? Sometimes. In the front row someone laughed through tears. Below him there were a series of similar comments. Finished. I'm going to the rooftop after this cigarette. Let's go together. Wait for me. Won't it be lonely to have a companion on the road? All-knowing man in ganghood, who had been silent for a while, also updated his Weibo at this time. Everyone has good and bad moments and martial artists are no exception. Ren Li's performance today was indeed a little problematic, but the final result will not change. What he meant was that Lu Cheng's tie with Ren Li, who was not in good condition, did not mean that he could be compared with her. As for whether Ren Li's condition was good or bad, there was a lot to say. Who didn't know how to nitpick? If someone was serious about it, he could use the final result to fight back. No one scolded him for being shameless under this Weibo because Yan Xiaoling and the others were worried about the 4th and final match in the fan forum. 555, are we really going to lose? Brahmin sent an emoji of drawing circles in the corner. I don't know. Eternal Nightfall sent an emoji of tears. I'm going to make a wish. If we can beat the capital today, I'll insist on waking up early for 1 month. Hey, did you skip all the classes in the morning? Unparalleled Dragon King asked in surprise. Yan Xiaoling sent an emoji of a tired smile. We chose the classes on our own. Thank you. Except for the martial arts class, the first class in the morning was moved to the afternoon or evening. But that's not the point. The point is that you have to make a wish with me and pray that we can beat the capital. Why bother? It's normal to lose to the capital. It's normal to win or lose in a match like this. Road to the arena interrupted. As a martial artist who practiced Wuthering 8 movements, he had always considered himself half an outer sect disciple of Kong Tong school. When watching today's match, it was obvious which side he supported. No. I don't remember who told me that if a martial artist is calm about defeat and doesn't feel pain, then he is already numb to winning and losing. He no longer has a strong heart. Knocking on a wooden fish expression, said Brahmin. As a fan, as a supporter, we have to do the same. If we don't feel sad about their loss, it means that we don't love them enough. Clap, 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 clap. Well said. Every time this happened, Yan Xiaoling was always at a loss for words. Hurry up and line up to make a wish. If Songqing University wins tonight, I'll run around the bathroom naked again. All the good names are taken by dogs, said. Bull Demon King said jokingly, if Songqing University wins tonight, I'll abstain from sex for a week. I'll quit barbecuing for half a month. Unparalleled Dragon King joined in the fun. Seeing that everyone was making their wishes, Yan Xiaoling heaved a sigh of relief and tagged, a lot of cats. Box, no cat reporter in front, are you nervous? Do you have any insider information? A lot of cats didn't reply in time because the atmosphere in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club seats was so tense that everyone forgot to play with their phones. Lu Cheng stood up with Yanjika and deliberately laughed. What kind of cheering method do you need? Just tell me, I'll definitely do it, even if it's a Hawaiian rock hula dance. He was trying to relieve his girlfriend's nervousness and stress with this kind of gag. Yanjika laughed in a nasal voice and took a deep breath to encourage herself. If I win, you have to massage me until I fall asleep tonight. No touching or taking advantage of me. Okay, no problem. Good luck. Seize the opportunity and you'll have a chance to win. Lu Cheng answered without hesitation and reached out his hand to give the girl a handshake. Okay. Yanjika nodded hard. She didn't waste any more time and didn't high-five Li Mao, Kai Zongming, and the others one by one. She just turned sideways and waved her fist at them. Yanjika stepped forward and walked towards the stone stairs to welcome Lin Kei, who was coming back. In the Capital College Martial Arts Club seats, Qin Digua exhaled like a bellows and sighed, it's not easy. If Xiaochan hadn't practiced the Plague Sect Force, she would have lost to Lin Kei and her last year of college martial arts career would have ended with regret. Fortunately. Kongchan can't be careless. Xinyu, who was next to Qin Digua, stood in front of the seat with her arms crossed and said to herself worriedly, Xiaochan is always cautious. Renli drank the canned juan and soup which was used to regulate the internal organs and focused her beautiful eyes on the arena. Hearing this, Chindigua nodded in agreement. Yes. Although Xiaochan likes to act cute and sometimes looks dull, she is very serious and steady in her work. As long as she is not careless, she has a good chance of winning the professional 9th pin. Well, you said Xiaochan is dull. Renli remembered the key point and kept her eyes on the arena. When Xianxia got into the arena quickly, the main force and substitutes of the Capital College Martial Arts Club suddenly quieted down and seemed to have lost the ability to speak. This round would decide who would stay and who would leave, who would laugh and who would cry. In the stands, the audience was happy, sad, and emotional. Their cheers had weakened a lot. Ding Yisin, a double fan, was so nervous that she didn't dare to look at the arena anymore. She shrank to Qiu Hailin's side and buried her head in her shoulder. Is it necessary? Qiu Hailin asked with amusement. When she spoke, her heart was beating fast. She couldn't tell whether she was nervous about her alma mater or her classmates. Yes. When I think about it, I think about how the loser will have to bid farewell to this place with regret. No matter how much effort I put in, how much sweat I put in, how much youth I had, I feel so sad and nervous. This is too cruel, too cruel. Ding Yisin spoke eloquently. She was a student of the Chinese Department of Capital College. A hipster's heart. Dewey hit the nail on the head. There was fear in her eyes as if she couldn't bear to see the final sadness. In the live broadcast room, the host Lu Chang, who had watched the stands and the seats of the martial arts club, sighed and said, "This is the cruelty of the knockout game. There can only be one winner. The loser has to leave and come back next year. Maybe they will miss it forever. Maybe they will regret it forever." Chen Sanxing echoed emotionally. Lu Chang wanted to create suspense, so he asked, "Sanxing, do you really think Songqing University has no hope?" "Not really. There is still hope, but it's not that big. It depends on the performance of both sides." Chen Sanxing thought for a while and said, "To be honest, Jiang Kongchan has consumed a lot of energy. The force of the plague sect can only be exerted when it hits the target. Besides, after Lin Kei's meteor blast, there may still be some shock left. If Lu Cheng or Lin Kei before the dance stage fought against her now, they would have a good chance to win, just like Wei Xingtian and Zhou Jingquan when they were tired and injured. Unfortunately, Xianxia is not them before the dance stage." Before he could finish his words, he stopped abruptly because the director cut the screen to the seats of the martial arts club on both sides. Lu Qing, Rin Li, Lin Kei, Chindigua, and the others stood up respectively, holding hands with their substitutes, and stood in a row facing the arena. They were cheering for their teammates, showing that no matter whether they won or lost, they would never walk alone. They were also praying to God together. The atmosphere instantly became solemn, and it became even more heavy and tense. Well, let's enjoy the final performance of Songqing University or Capital College in this national competition. The host Lu Chang sighed. At this time, Xianxia stood in front of Jiang Kongchan in the arena. She lowered her center of gravity and got into a fighting posture. Jiang Kongchan seized the last moment to do breathing exercises. Her face was slightly pale and her lips were dark blue. Obviously, the previous fight and the force of the plague sect had put her under a lot of pressure. The referee glanced at the girls on both sides, raised his right hand and shouted loudly, "Start!" The fourth round began. The last round of Songqing University or Capital College began. Jiang Kongchan swung her center of gravity forward and swept toward Xianxia. Her steps were light and agile and she walked like the wind. She wanted to take the initiative to attack and chase her opponent with wind steps. When she found a gap, she would completely suppress her opponent with martial arts such as tornado and create an opportunity for her opponent to take her weakening force head-on. At the same time, she could still perform one force concentration in case of accidents. Xianxia didn't stay in the same place like a fool. She retreated to the side like an antelope and then circled around Jiang Kongchan trying to fight her. One was chasing and the other was dodging. The two figures seemed to be dancing on the arena. Gradually, Jiang Kongchan, who had the upper hand in all aspects, changed her direction continuously with mercurial balance and shortened the distance between them bit by bit. Finally, after a ghostly turn, she locked onto Xianxia and approached her opponent. She tightened the muscles of her right leg and was about to kick her. At this moment, her clear eyes reflected the beautiful girl's figure. She raised her hands and formed an extremely familiar hand seal. Oh no! Jiang Kongchan's pupils shrank rapidly. She heard a low but pleasant voice, "Army." The army formula of the 9 words formula. Lin Kei had been taught the attainment formula, so how could Xianxia not have practiced the 9 words formula? She had not only practiced the attainment formula, but also the swordsman formula and the army formula. Lu Qing wanted his girlfriend to master it as soon as possible. He even asked his master to borrow the original copies of the army formula and the swordsman formula. He didn't use his own inferior copies. Xianxia, who hadn't shown much in the previous matches, took the risk to use this move when Jiang Kongqian was close to her. Otherwise, with her willpower and spirit, if she used it from a distance, the powerful enemy would recover quickly and there would be no chance for her to attack. Army. A cold and sharp mind invaded Jiang Kongqian's mind. She felt like being pointed at by long swords and steel knives. Her mind was on the verge of collapse. She wanted to scream and beg for mercy. Now is the time. Xianxia visualized a meteor streaking across the sky in his mind. His temples suddenly bulged and he swung his right arm quickly, throwing out a punch. The meteor force of the fighting sect. Yes, I can't reach the Dan stage, but I can make other things the best of a professional ninth pin. My brother can practice the meteor force before the Dan stage, so can I. I haven't wasted any time in all these months. Bang. She threw a punch. A strong wind was blowing. Jiang Kongqian woke up from the shock and hurriedly raised her arms to block. Then she tried to use the force concentration to resolve all the accidents. Boom. She seemed to be hit directly by the impact of the bomb. The remaining shock in her body was stimulated. Her qi and blood were tumbling, her organs were shaking, and her mind was buzzing. Her thought of condensing her force was interrupted. Xianxia shook her left arm and threw it out, stopping in front of Jiang Kongqian's throat. The referee opened his mouth slightly and then raised his right hand. He said loudly, "Round 4, Xianxia wins. The final result is Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins." Xianxia was relieved. If she couldn't win with this combo, she probably couldn't win today. After she was relieved, she was ecstatic. She turned around and waved her fist at her teammates who hadn't reacted yet. I won. Everyone was silent. Chapter 401. Round 4, Xianxia wins. The final result is Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. Lu Qing and Lin Ke were mentally prepared to respond to Xianxia's excited punches. Kai Zongming, Li Mao, and the others in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club's seats were at a loss. They couldn't believe that Xianxia had won. In their minds, even if Xianxia could defeat Jiang Kongqian, it must have been a tough battle. How could she win so easily? The sudden surprise made it difficult for them to return to their senses for a short while, and they were unable to enjoy the joy of victory in time. They were like this, and so were the spectators in the stands. They forgot to shout, to cheer, and to cheer. The whole place was silent. This is not scientific. What happened to Jiang Kongqian's strength? How could she lose so quickly? She lost so easily without any resistance. Wait, Xianxia from Songqing University also knows the 9 syllables. She is the real secret weapon. In the live broadcast room, Qin Sanxing was silent for more than 10 seconds. Then he blurted out, "Army syllables? Xianxia has also learned the 9 syllables? Yeah, how come everyone in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club knows this kind of secret skill?" The host, Lu Chang, was still in a state of confusion. Which sect or force would not cherish secret arts of the level of the 9 syllables? Why would they not teach them to non-core disciples? Is the Songqing University Martial Arts Club going to enter communism? Qin Sanxing took a deep breath and was also puzzled. We just said that the capital is the back garden of the Kongtong sect. Then what is Songqing University? I don't know. Lu Chang spread out his hands. He still couldn't digest the dramatic ending of the match. Except for shock, there was no sadness or joy. In the Capital Academy Martial Arts Club seating area, Qin Digua also had a similar feeling. Sitting there, he stared blankly at the ring. He saw Jiang Kongqian standing still and Xianxia cheering and waving her fists excitedly. In his eyes, all the colors faded quickly. The two figures seemed to have become characters in a black and white silent film, so distant and so illusory. One? Just like that? In Lu Cheng's fan forum, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling posted in confusion. It's not that I don't understand, it's just that this world is changing too fast. It's so surreal. Brahman said with a confused expression. The surprise was so great that he couldn't find the feeling for a while. At this moment, many cats surfaced and replied to Yan Xiaoling's previous question with a disdainful emoji. Do you think I'm nervous? I almost laughed out loud. After hearing her words, Yan Xiaoling instantly regained her senses and returned to reality. She quickly typed on the keyboard and said, "Ha, I should have thought of this earlier. Haha, Lin Ke has already mastered the attainment formula." With Senior Yan's relationship with Lu Cheng, How could she not have mastered it? Haha, I was also stupid, I was nervous for nothing. Ah, I'm so happy. I'm going to wake up early tomorrow. Wake up early. Not bad. Looks like making a wish is still effective. I'll also officially abstain from sex for a week. Oh, my girlfriend went on a business trip yesterday. 10 days. Bull Demon King said with a funny face. Unparalleled Dragon King said, Xianxia took a risk just now. She waited until Jiang Kongchan was so close to her before she used the army formula. If she was nervous, she would have been kicked by Jiang Kongchan and wouldn't have had time to use her secret skill. He was still thinking about the battle just now. He felt that the way Xianxia used the army formula was a bit familiar. Her arms moved quickly and her punch was like a meteor. Moreover, it caused Jiang Kongchan's muscles to tremble obviously. It was exactly the same as Lin K's. Haha, don't worry about these details. Quick, Unparalleled Dragon King, throw away your barbecue. And the student running naked run away. Yan Shaoling was so excited that she was almost incoherent. Let me finish the last string of kidney and then start my fast. Unparalleled Dragon King said with a sigh. Yan Shaoling didn't care at all and continued to say, Haha, I feel like I'll be very busy later. I have to manage everyone's posts, keep an eye on the old driver, see what kind of car he drives, watch the toxic milk commentator, laugh at the all-knowing man, and like all the comments praising Songqing University and Lucheng. I'm so busy. At this time, under the Weibo post of superstitious thoughts are not, comments sprung up like bamboo shoots after a rain. I actually doubted sect leader He's ability to heal poison. I repent, I apologize. 3 incense sticks, first to congratulate sect leader, second to congratulate sect leader, third to congratulate sect leader, and third to congratulate sect leader for joining the toxic milk sect. You'll follow the law and reverse the cause and effect. Sect leader I beg you please scold me. Just say that you're a playboy who plays games and watches competitions every day. How can you pass the exam? Hey friends on the rooftop, you can come down now. You yelled, too late? Compared to He Xiaowei's humorous comments, the all-knowing man in ganghood had a different style. Eternal Nightfall sent a dancing emoji. Ha 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 ha, I'll just laugh. I won't say anything. Catch the guy upstairs. Replied Wonton Seller, with a cat head emoji. Brahmin 001 inch replied, laughing out loud expression. Lu Cheng's fans are here for a visit. Songqing University's fans are following closely behind. Squeeze squeeze. Passengers who don't want to follow the group line up here. Seeing these, the blood vessels on the forehead of all-knowing man in ganghood jumped. He swiped his finger and directly deleted the first few posts. Then he turned off his computer, muted his phone, quit the app and stayed away from electronic products. After the limelight he was a good man again. On the arena, Xianxia excitedly saluted Jiang Kongchan, turned around and ran back to the seats to share the joy with Lu Cheng and the others. Although she had been telling herself to be reserved and ladylike, she couldn't help but feel a little excited. At this time she suddenly heard the silence in the arena being broken. Voices converged into a torrent and rang in her ears. Xianxia. Xianxia. Xianxia subconsciously slowed down and looked around blankly. This was the first time that she had received such warm and surging cheers as the winner of a crucial match. The audience had come back to their senses. They naturally had a good impression of the weak who defeated the strong. Moreover, Xianxia was such a beautiful and clean girl. Xianxia. Xianxia. The cheers were louder and louder, making the girl feel excited. Her whole body was overflowing with the feeling of, I'm so happy. She raised her hands above her head and applauded in all directions. Her footwork quickened again and she ran to the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club. She couldn't wait to share all this with Silly Cheng. Lu Cheng and the others had already walked up to her hand in hand. Like a surging wave, they surrounded Xianxia in the center and confused the others. Among them, Lu Cheng was very excited and his expression was overflowing. Lin Ke was a little stiff because he was not used to such close contact with others, but the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up. The girl took a step forward and hugged Lu Cheng fiercely. Then she came back to her senses and bumped fists with Lin Ke, Kai Zongming and Lin Hua one by one. We won. We won. They were all smiles and seemed to have forgotten other words. They just repeated the word, we won, over and over again. Yes, we won. We won the capital with difficulty. Yes, we won. We entered the finals. Looking at Xianxia's excited back and the celebrating crowd of Songqing University, Jiang Kongchan felt a sense of loss. Her heart felt empty as if it was missing a piece. It was better not to touch it, but as long as she touched it, a dull pain would spread out. She had not only mastered the army formula, but also practiced the meteor force of the fighting sect. If it was only one of the two, the force concentration she had reserved in case of accidents would be enough to solve the problem. Who knew that things would always develop in the worst direction? Jiang Kongchan took a breath and puffed up her cheeks to restrain her urge to cry. When she flew away from the sad place and returned to the seats of the Capital College Martial Arts Club, Renly had already come to her. She was no longer confused and reached out her hands to hug her. Smelling the faint orchid fragrance and feeling the warm embrace of Renly, Jiang Kongchan couldn't hold back anymore. She buried her face in Renly's shoulder and tears overflowed from her eyes. "I'm sorry, senior. I'm sorry," she sobbed. "It's okay. It's okay." Renly looked forward and patted her back. Senior brother Chen, this is the last year." Jiang Kongchan choked with sobs. Hearing this, Chen Digua wanted to comfort the girl with the round face and tell her that he could bear it, but when the words came to his mouth, he was too sad to say anything. He looked sideways at Renly and saw that her big eyes were covered with a layer of fog, full of obvious pain and loss. As a heavenly son of the age, there are also regrets that are difficult to make up for. Chen Digua understood and sighed to himself. He walked to the stands where the supporters of the Capital College Martial Arts Club were, raised his hands high, and gently clapped as he moved sideways to bid farewell to his teammates. Someone started, and the supporters shouted his name like they always did in the previous competitions. Chen Digua. Chen Digua. The familiar scene and familiar cheers made Chen Digua forget the maxim that men should bleed but not cry. His eyes became wet and his nose seemed to be blocked, but he still insisted on finishing his farewell. "I'm sorry that I couldn't bring you a champion. I'm sorry that I can't fight for this championship anymore." Looking at his regretful back, Ding Yisin cried very sadly. She shouted with the audience around her, "Chen Digua, Chen Digua." Beside her, Chiu Hailin, Dui, and the others were also inexplicably sad and cried. Maybe they were just there to join in the fun, but the sadness and tears were unforgettable. "Goodbye, Capital. Goodbye, Chen Digua." In a dimly lit locker room, the closed door was suddenly opened. A young man who looked like a student shouted before he entered, "Songqing University won." Songqing University entered the final competition. Following his words, the dazzling light outside shone in and the whole room became bright. A clean and refreshing young man woke up from his state of mind. "Songqing University," he whispered to himself.